Chapter 22. What? Li Qingyang joined Iron Bone. What? The head of Iron Bone taught the elder of Tsang Mountain Sect, and he was extremely grateful. What? The elder of Spirit Spring Sect had an arm cut off by that guy. The cultivators who did not see it with their own eyes, after hearing it from others, had the same expression on their faces. It has to be said. The three things that Jun Changshao did at the martial arts practice field, any one of them was very sensational. When he happily left with Lu Qianqian and Li Qingyang, in just half a day, the city was in an uproar, and everyone was talking about it. It's impossible. That trash sect, how could they have such a valiant head? Is it a rumor? It's not a rumor, it's true. I saw it with my own eyes at the martial arts practice field. This is simply inconceivable. Iron Bone cut off Elder Wei's arm, isn't that the same as completely offending Spirit Spring Sect? Spirit Spring Sect is not to be trifled with. In my opinion, it won't be long before they bring people to Qingyang village to cause trouble for Iron Bone. What everyone was worried about, Jun Changshao was also worried. However, thinking that he still had 97 contribution points, which could be exchanged for more goods, he fearlessly said, as long as the people of Spirit Spring Sect dare to come, I'll make them go back lying down. Why did he cross over to another world? Wasn't it to become stronger, to act pretentious? To be bullied? To be bullied at his door? This kind of thing could not be tolerated, and neither could his aunt. Head Jun was now looking forward to the Spirit Spring Sect coming to cause trouble for him. This way, he could better raise the prestige of the sect, and let the world know my Iron Bones sect is not to be trifled with. After a gust of wind, the two dilapidated wooden doors creaked, as if they would fall off at any time. Li Qingyang stood 10 meters away from the door and looked at the dilapidated building. He then looked at the plaque that said Iron Bone Clan hanging on the door. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, "Sect leader, is it too late for me to leave the sect now?" It's too late. Jun Changshao's heart was filled with bitterness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my Iron Bone Upright Sect. In 100 years, he had to develop it into the strongest sect and recruit 100,000 disciples. This was simply hell mode. Hey! 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 A naked 3-year-old child hopped over and stopped at the corner of the door. He supported his penis and diligently fertilized the weeds. Ah! Jun Changshao drew his sword and roared, "Little brat, you dare to pee in front of my Iron Bone sect, I will cut off your little penis." Sect leader, calm down. Sect leader, calm down. Li Qingyang hurriedly dragged it back, afraid that he would do something irrational. Wah! The 3-year-old child was so scared that he started crying. He twisted his butt and ran away. He even shouted in grievance, "Mom! Go Xing bullied me." Ah! Jun Changshao roared, "Little brat, if you call me Go Xing again, believe it or not, I will kill you right now." Sect leader, calm down. Sect leader, calm down. Li Qingyang held on with all his might. Huff! Jun Changshao took a deep breath and calmed himself down. As the leader of a sect, how can I lower myself to the level of a 3-year-old child? Swoosh! He waved his sleeves and said, let's go in, plop." Just as he walked to the door, the plaque hanging above was blown down by the wind. It directly hit his head, and he fell to the ground with his limbs in the air. Li Qingyang, Lu Qianqian, ah! I want to smash it. Sect leader, calm down. Sect leader, calm down. This is our Iron Bone Upright Sect's plaque. Since our Iron Bone Upright Sect wants to develop, we must first tidy up the sect inside and outside. These broken doors and windows must all be replaced. Sitting at the head of the sect hall, Jun Changshao said with a deep tone. This trip to Qingyang City had made him rich. The first thing he had to do was to rebuild the sect. Even if it was not grand, it had to at least be pleasing to the eye. Sect leader. Li Qingyang reminded him softly, your head is still spurting blood. It's okay, it's okay. Jun Changshao patted the wound that was hit by the plaque and said, "I'll leave these things to you. You must complete them seriously." "Yes," Li Qingyang said. "All right." Jun Changshao handed him a few banknotes and stood up shakily. "I'm a little dizzy. I'll go back and rest first." Ironbone Upright Sect was built on a barren mountain near Qingyang village. Because of sect leader Wang's death, the villagers rarely came here anymore. But these few days, the villagers found that Qingyang village's carpenters and bricklayers went up the mountain in large batches. All kinds of building materials were also transported up. Ironbone Sect is going to be renovated. Go Sheng, that brat, is rich now. Impossible. He went to Aunt Wang's house to beg for food a while ago. How can he be rich now? Let's go up and take a look. The villagers went up the mountain in groups of 3 to 5, but they were stopped by Lu Qianqian at the entrance. "Our sect is being renovated. Those who are not disciples of our sect are not allowed to enter." Mississippi, a villager smiled and said, "We're from the foot of the mountain. With dogs, clang." Lu Qianqian unsheathed her sword and said coldly, "Sect leader has ordered that whoever dares to call his nickname will be killed." Swoosh! At that moment, the villagers of Qingyang village turned into martial arts experts and disappeared without a trace. Lu Qianqian sheathed her sword and said in a low voice, "Go Sheng is a much better name than Jun Changshao. Why is sect leader so resistant?" The matter of the sect's renovation was handled by Li Qingyang. Sect leader Jun sat cross-legged in his room and said thoughtfully, "It's full, but we need disciples to do missions to improve the sect's construction." Swoosh! He opened the system panel again and found that there were no missions for the sect. Puzzled, he asked, "System, when will there be missions for the sect?" The system said, "Wait." Jun Changshao was speechless. He opened the system store to see if there was anything he needed. He had martial skills and weapons. He didn't need anything for the time being. Wrong. He lacked a realm. Jun Changshao didn't think that a 5th-level meridian opening cultivator would be able to stay in the falling star continent forever. The most important thing right now was to increase his realm. Is there any experience talisman? He began to search, but couldn't find anything even after scrolling to the bottom. Jun Changshao lay on his bed, clutching his bleeding head as he said, "Could it be that I have to rely on meditation to increase my cultivation like the other cultivators here?" It wasn't impossible, but it was too slow. After all, his body's aptitude was average and he didn't have any advanced mental cultivation techniques. If he cultivated normally, breaking through to martial disciple would be difficult. That's right. Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and blood spurted out. "I can change my aptitude." Swoosh! He opened the system panel again and entered the beginner's system store. He kept scrolling down and quickly locked onto an item called Aptitude Changing Fluid. He clicked on the detailed description. Item, Aptitude Changing Fluid. Effect, can change one's aptitude and increase it by 1 level. Note, can only be used by people with low aptitudes. Effectiveness, lifetime. Price, 50 contribution points 50 points. Jun Changshao scrolled down and saw that the price was indeed 50 contribution points. He collapsed. Aptitude-changing items are so expensive. That's right, that's right. Aptitude determines a martial artist's cultivation speed and upper limit. It's reasonable for it to be expensive. Without hesitation, he chose to buy it. Ding! Host spent 50 contribution points and obtained Aptitude-changing Fluid X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 47100. Chapter 23. A bottle of aptitude-modifying liquid cost 50 contribution points, which made Jun Changshao's heart ache. But on second thought, it could improve his aptitude, so he comforted himself, "It's not a loss, not a loss." He took out the small bottle containing the aptitude-modifying liquid from his spatial ring. Paw! Opening the bottle, wisps of red gas floated out. Jun Changshao sniffed and felt a little choked. He couldn't help but worry, this thing won't be poisonous, right? I don't care so much. Let's drink first. Sect leader Jun raised his neck decisively, and the red liquid in the bottle entered his mouth and flowed into his body. It was a little bitter, but also a little malt mellow. Come on. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged with a solemn expression. What was he doing? He was preparing for the pain that would occur when the liquid entered his body. In Jun Changshao's opinion, this kind of aptitude-modifying item was equivalent to washing one's marrow and bones, so he must bear the same risk. Whoosh whoosh. As expected, the liquid spread in his body, and a majestic aura burst out instantly. Jun Changshao clenched his fists, his eyes shining with determination. No matter how unbearable the pain is, I can resist it with my great willpower. Ding. Host used aptitude modifying liquid X1, modifying spirit root aptitude. Spirit root aptitude modification completed. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched violently. He was prepared to face the pain, but the modification was completed so quickly. It was too simple, too casual. The next second, Jun Changshao felt that the wisps of heaven and earth spirit chi floating in the air were very friendly to him. The higher the aptitude, the better the compatibility with heaven and earth spirit chi. For a high-grade aptitude like Li Qingyang, as long as he used his mental cultivation method, the heaven and earth spirit chi would rush and compete to be absorbed. Jun Changshao couldn't do it. He had tried to use his mental cultivation method to cultivate, but the spirit chi ignored him. But now, there was an obvious change in its attitude. Jun Changshao couldn't help but be happy. It's worth 50 points. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your spiritual root has been upgraded from low grade to mundane grade. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, sure enough, my body's aptitude was the worst of the low grade. No wonder it didn't even care about spiritual energy. Whew! He spread out his arms and took a deep breath. He immediately felt refreshed. Ding! Host has successfully broken through to channel opening stage 6. Ding! Host has successfully broken through to channel opening stage 7. Hearing the beautiful notification, Jun Changshao said with a dumbfounded expression, 2 meridians opened with just one breath. The system explained, the increase in the host's aptitude will lead to an increase in the basic cultivation base. I see. Jun Changshao roughly understood. He had forcefully opened 2 meridians in order to raise his cultivation from low tier to mortal tier. If he could raise his cultivation from mortal tier to intermediate tier, he should be able to raise his cultivation further. What should he do after his spiritual root aptitude was upgraded? Of course he would cultivate. Jun Mo Xie took advantage of the time when his second disciple was busy with the sect's repairs. So, he didn't go out of the sect's main gate, and went into closed-door cultivation. This meditation art should be a mortal tier mental cultivation method. I can use it to cultivate. The meditation art was a mental cultivation method that the Tsang Shan sect's elder had asked for guidance. Jun Changshao had relied on the clear vision talisman to not only memorize it, but also comprehend it to the 4th level. He sat down cross-legged and began to circulate the mental cultivation method. Hoo-hoo! In an instant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the room was drawn and rushed into his body. After the spiritual energy entered his body, it followed the fixed path of his meridians and gathered in his dantian. Under the meditation art's refinement, it formed a fingernail-sized energy ball. In Jun Changshao's memories, this was called spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy in the dantian reached a certain level, it could be used to break through the blocked meridians in the body and achieve a breakthrough. Continue, continue. Jun Changshao threw away all distracting thoughts and continued to circulate the mental cultivation method. However, after a night of hard work, the energy ball in his dantian only increased a little. He couldn't help but feel disappointed. It might take a few months to reach the standard of breaking through the meridians. A few months was also the credit of the meditation art. If this was the lowest mental cultivation method and the lowest spiritual root from before, it would already be considered good to be able to condense enough spiritual energy to break through the meridians in a year. Too slow. Jun Changshao said, "System, is there a way to quickly open the meridians?" "Yes." The system said. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. "What way?" The system said, "Click on the sect contribution points." Jun Changshao was stunned, then pulled out the system panel and clicked on the sect contribution points. Suddenly, a new panel popped up. It only wrote contribution points for cultivation points. Damn! Jun Changshao was overjoyed, so there's a button for contribution points and a function to exchange for cultivation points. The system reminded, although this function is convenient, it will instantly consume all of the host's contribution points. Please consider carefully before making a decision. Is that so? Jun Changshao held his chin and thought seriously. If he used all of his contribution points to exchange for only one level, it would be a huge loss. No. After thinking for a while, Jun Changshao said seriously, "My current cultivation is too low. The most important thing now is to raise my martial arts realm as soon as possible." Furthermore, during this period of time, he found out that other than a few talismans and weapons, other beginner-level items were not only expensive, but also required certain conditions. For example, the 9 heavy collapsing fist in the shop. Although it only required 10 contribution points, the detailed description stated that one must be at least at level 10 of the channel opening realm to cultivate it. Phew! Jun Changshao exhaled. Contribution points can be earned again, but if I can't raise my cultivation, how can I survive in the falling star continent? Schwa! While speaking, he resolutely clicked on the exchange button on the panel. Ding! Sect contribution points, 0/100. The original 47 contribution points were instantly reset to 0, making Jun Changshao's heart ache. After all, he had worked hard to earn those points in Qingyang City. Ding! Host successfully broke through to level 8 of the channel opening realm. Ding! Host successfully broke through to level 9 of the channel opening realm. Ding! Host successfully broke through to level 10 of the channel opening realm. A series of notifications sounded. Jun Changshao could clearly feel a strong spiritual energy condensing in his body. With a strong momentum, it broke through all 3 of his main meridians. Damn! He was pleasantly surprised. I actually opened 3 meridians. For Jun Changshao, opening 3 meridians with 47 points of experience was still acceptable. The system said, host's cultivation is currently low. If you use contribution points to exchange, you can achieve consecutive breakthroughs. But if you wait until your cultivation is higher and then exchange again, it will naturally not be worth it. Jun Changshao ignored it. He clenched his fists and 10 dazzling rays of light appeared on his left and right wrists. He grinned. The feeling of becoming stronger is awesome. Bang! With a punch, the house collapsed. Great Sect leader Jun was directly buried under the collapsed tiles. The next day, Li Qingyang stood in front of the ruins and said solemnly, "Sect leader, this punch of yours will require at least 200 taels of silver to rebuild." Jun Changshao, who was covered in dust, heard this and immediately rolled his eyes. Chapter 24. 97 contribution points were squandered by Jun Changshao in a single night. He had no choice. After coming to this world, if he wanted to become stronger, he had to pay a price. Next, I just have to wait for the sect missions to appear and earn contribution points to improve the sect's construction. Jun Changshao mumbled. There were no side missions, and he did not know what the hidden missions were. Right now, he could only rely on improving the sect's construction to increase the upper limit of the number of members and earn contribution points. Sect Master. Li Qingyang walked over and said, "I'm out of money." Out of money again? Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. This guy came every day to ask for money. He did not know how to save money at all. Li Qingyang said, "Sect Master, the sect is too old. Renovating it is the same as rebuilding it, so it will cost a lot of money. All right. Jun Changshao threw him a few more banknotes and said, in 3 days, your junior brothers will come to report. Can you finish it? Li Qingyang said, it shouldn't be a problem. All right. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, go do your work. Li Qingyang bid farewell and left. He sat cross-legged in the courtyard and began to meditate. Without contribution points, he could only obediently cultivate the traditional way. However, after a day, the speed at which spirit energy condensed in his dantian was very slow. This made Jun Changshao realize that the higher his realm, the harder it was to open his meridians. Sigh. He sighed. How great would it be if I had an endless supply of contribution points? The next day, Jun Changshao stopped cultivating. He stood up and walked out of the inner courtyard, heading to the outer courtyard. During this period of time, he had been cultivating. He did not ask about the sect's renovation other than the daily payment. Iron Bone clan occupied an area of about 100 acres. It was divided into an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard. The inner courtyard was where the sect master's disciples lived, and the outer courtyard was where they practiced their martial arts. When Jun Changshao walked through the winding path paved with cobblestones and entered the outer courtyard, his expression froze. What appeared before his eyes was originally a deserted hall. Not only was it brand new, with vermilion tiles and jade tiles, even the stone stairs were carved out of jade. The pillars used to support the main beam had been repainted with lifelike carvings of birds and beasts. There were also many buildings on both sides of the outer courtyard. It looked very majestic. In the area between the main hall and the main gate, there was a large martial arts practice field. The ground was paved with blue stone slabs. With one look, one could tell that the material used was extremely high-end. What was even more flirtatious was, in the empty space in the outer courtyard, there were not only ponds and artificial mountains, but also pavilions and pavilions for resting and sightseeing. Only a master architect would be able to design such a small place so well. This is my sect. Jun Changshao stood in place, feeling as if he was in a dream. He even secretly wondered if he had transmigrated to the inner court of the imperial palace of a certain dynasty. It wasn't a dream, it was real. This was because Li Qingyang had just walked out of the main hall and arrived in front of him. Sect leader, are you satisfied with the renovation of the outer court? How was this a renovation? This was simply a reconstruction. Satisfied. Jun Changshao said, very satisfied. As he spoke, he got up and went to the main hall. He was shocked again when he entered because the ground was also paved with neat stone slabs. There were large mahogany chairs placed on both sides. It could be said to be extremely luxurious. Sect leader. Li Qingyang pointed to the extraordinary chair at the head of the hall and said, your throne is made of 1,000-year-old Phoebe. Is that so? Jun Changshao sat down on the chair and immediately felt that it was much more comfortable than the creaking chair he had been sitting on before. He naturally placed his arms on the armrest and said quite satisfactorily, not bad, not bad. This was what a sect should be like. Sect leader. Jun Changshao handed over an account book and said, this is the breakdown of the cost of the renovation. Please take a look. He was indeed from a famous clan. The cost of the renovation was all recorded down. There was an account book that could be checked. Qingyang. Jun Changshao took the account book and casually flipped through it while praising, your performance made me very satisfied. The voice stopped abruptly. Because, when he flipped to the last page of the account book, he clearly saw that the total amount of money spent was 4,650 taels. Jun Changshao nearly jumped up and said, you spent so much. As he spoke, he hurriedly checked his spatial ring and found that there was only a pitiful 300 taels of silver left. Jun Xia had been busy with his cultivation for the past few days. So, he had given Li Qingyang money every time he had asked for it. He didn't care about how much money he had given, and didn't care about how much money he had left. His contribution points had been used up, and he didn't have much money left. This made Jun Changshao howl in his heart, how am I going to live in the future? Sect leader. Li Qingyang said, this disciple plans to rebuild the inner courtyard as well. It will probably cost around 4,000 taels. Pooh! Jun Changshao collapsed on the wooden chair, foaming at the mouth. Money was a good thing. It was fine as long as the money was spent. Li Qingyang had spent a lot of money to renovate the dilapidated Iron Bone Upright School. It now looked like a sect. But every time he thought about the 4,000 taels of silver, sect leader Jun had the urge to hug a pillar and cry. He didn't really care about the money, but the disciples would report tomorrow. Wouldn't so many people eat, drink, and defecate? Wouldn't each person have 2 sets of uniforms? What could he do with the remaining few hundred taels? Sigh. Sitting on the carved railings of the stone steps, Jun Changshao was not only worried about how to earn contribution points, but also about how to earn money for the daily expenses of the sect. Qianshan. He asked for help. Is there any way to earn money quickly? Go rob. Lu Qianshan said indifferently, money comes quickly. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. My Iron Bone clan is a righteous sect. How could we do something so despicable that the people of Jianghu would despise? Lu Qianshan said, then let's sell the sword. This, Jun Changshao held his chin and said, it's an emergency measure. Sect leader. At this moment, Li Qingyang walked in from outside and said, junior brothers are here. Let them in. Jun Changshao stood up and patted the dust off his butt, showing the dignity of a sect leader. Not long later, more than 20 disciples entered the sect one after another. They stood on the martial arts practice field and looked at the magnificent buildings around them. They were all shocked. They didn't expect their sect to be so luxurious. They spent a few thousand taels of silver. How could it not be luxurious? Why are there so few people? Jun Changshao frowned and said, where are the other disciples? Reporting to sect leader. A disciple said respectfully, some of the senior and junior brothers live in a remote mountain village. It will take some time for them to rush over. I see. Jun Changshao understood and said, Qingyang, arrange a place for them to stay. Yes. Li Qingyang received the order and was about to bring his junior brothers to the inner courtyard when he heard a weak shout from outside the door, Sect. Sect leader, Jun Changshao frowned and hurriedly walked out. Li Qingyang and Lu Qianshan also followed. When the 3 of them arrived at the gate, they saw a young man lying on the floor covered in blood. Junior brother son. Li Qingyang hurriedly squatted down and put one hand on his pulse to check his junior brother's injuries. The injured disciple endured the pain and said weakly, Sect. Sect leader, there were more than 30 of us. We were ambushed by bandits on the way and our junior brothers were taken away. Before he finished speaking, he closed his eyes and the blood-stained letter in his hand fell to the ground. Li Qingyang said, Sect leader, junior brother just fainted. It's not a big deal. Jun Changshao picked up the letter and opened it. He saw a line of crooked words written on it. The content was, prepare money in 3 days and come to Black Mountain to ransom them. Otherwise, they will be killed. Damn it! Jun Changshao angrily held the letter and said sternly, how dare you kidnap my Iron Bone clan's disciples? You must be tired of living. Chapter 25. There was a notorious mountain in Azure Sun County called the Black Mountain. Mountain bandits occupied the mountain all year round. They would come down the mountain from time to rob and show their presence. After half a month, they made their move again. Their presence was to kidnap more than 30 disciples of the Iron Bone sect and leave a letter asking for money. Other bandit groups would usually block the road and rob people for their money and belongings. Kidnapping people and brazenly demanding a ransom was quite creative. Damn it! Jun Changshao walked out of the door with a murderous look and said, how dare you bully the people of the Iron Bone sect? I don't care if you are a mountain bandit or a bandit. I will kill you all. It was not easy to recruit 100 disciples, but more than 30 of them were kidnapped. This was intolerable. Being able to release a murderous aura and say such harsh words was enough to prove that Jun Changshao had completely adapted to his new identity and the cruel falling star continent. Sect Master. Li Qingyang chased after him and said, "I will go with you." As the second senior brother of the Iron Bone sect, he could not do nothing when his junior brother was kidnapped by bandits. Lu Qianqian also followed him out. Jun Changshao stopped and said, "There are still disciples who have not reported. You two stay in the sect and take care of things. You don't have to follow me to the Black Mountain." Li Qingyang said with a serious expression, "Sect Master, there are at least 200 bandits on the Black Mountain. I heard that the leader is a martial disciple. If you go alone, I'm afraid," Jun Changshao said in a deep voice, "this is an order." At that moment, he had the dignity of a sect master. Although he wanted to continue to dissuade him, Li Qingyang could only cup his hands and say, "I will follow sect master's order." Jun Changshao walked down the mountain. His gaze was still cold. Anger. He was serious. "Senior sister." Seeing Jun Changshao's figure walking down the mountain, Li Qingyang could not help but worry, "Sect Master, if something happens, what will happen to the Iron Bone sect?" "It's very simple." Lu Qianqian stood in front of the door and crossed her arms, "I will be the sect master and you will be the senior disciple." Li Qingyang's lips twitched upon hearing this. Black Mountain. It was 50 miles away from Azure Sun Village. There were layers upon layers of mountains and cliffs, and the terrain was very dangerous. It was because of the complicated terrain that the bandits were fearless and dared to go down the mountain to do whatever they wanted. The government and many sects had come to suppress the bandits many times, but the Black Mountain was easy to defend and hard to attack. Every time, they would return in defeat. Over time, the Black Mountain was regarded as a forbidden area by the cultivators of the Azure Sun County. Today, on the winding mountain road, Jun Changshao climbed the stairs one step at a time. If a martial artist knew that the Iron Bone faction's sect leader was climbing the Black Mountain alone, they would definitely cup their hands and say, "I respect you as a man." Although he was angry, he was angry. He began to think seriously about how to deal with the bandits. From Li Qingyang, there were not only 200 bandits on the mountain, but there was also a martial disciple. This was tricky. With the elementary-grade cold-edge sword, the 9-style wave-stacking sword, and 10 opened meridians, Jun Changshao could deal with 20 or so level 4 or 5 meridian opening stage cultivators. But it would be difficult to deal with 200. Moreover, if there was a martial disciple, it would be easy to go up, but difficult to come down. Jun Changshao's thoughts entered his spatial ring. Looking at the sprint talisman and escape talisman given to him by the newbie gift pack, he thought to himself, these two talismans aren't suitable for fighting. At this moment, his gaze landed on hard to keep saber. Seeing this made him angry. After all, it was just a casual sentence, and it had been given to him as his first wish. Jun Changshao weighed hard to keep saber and found that it was quite heavy. He muttered, "What quality will it be?" He unconsciously held the hilt and gently pulled it out of the scabbard. Bang! There was a loud explosion. Jun Changshao was sent flying dozens of meters away. In the outside world, his body unconsciously moved back a few steps and almost fell down. Jun Changshao said with lingering fear, "That was close, that was close." When he pulled out the saber, a violent aura suddenly emerged between the hilt and the scabbard. If he did not throw the saber away quickly, he would have been injured. The system's voice sounded, "Hard to keep saber must be unsealed before it can be used. Forcibly pulling the saber out of the scabbard will only injure yourself." Jun Changshao collapsed. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The system said, "You didn't ask." Jun Changshao was speechless. After calming down, he was overjoyed. The aura was so terrifying. The quality of hard to keep saber must be very high. Maybe it can help me save my disciple. In a flash, Jun Changshao's confidence increased. Ha! Suddenly, he stopped. Two tall and sturdy men stood on the stone steps in front of him, each holding a weapon. They had a malicious smile on their faces. "Brother Six. The shorter man smiled. Did I see wrong? Someone actually dares to climb the Black Mountain? The man called Brother Six glanced at Jun Changshao and said indifferently, he looks so weak that he can't even stand a gust of wind. He must be a scholar who came here to play. Shwa! The shorter man jumped down and waved his large saber. Boy, do you know that you have entered a den of thieves? Jun Changshao calmly said, I know. The shorter man was startled. He grinned and said, you know, and you still dare to come up. Are you tired of hanging yourself? Jun Changshao asked, are you a bandit? The shorter man rested his large saber on his shoulder and proudly said, yes, I am a bandit of the Black Mountain. People call me Iron Saber Little Overlord. Jun Changshao shook his head. A bandit has such a strong sense of superiority. Public morals are degenerating day by day. The bandit called Brother Six impatiently said, Brother Seven, don't waste time with him. Quickly deal with him. Okay. Iron Saber Little Overlord put on a ferocious face and said, boy, will you take the initiative to hand over your valuables or let me search you? Go ahead. Jun Changshao said. Iron Saber Little Overlord sneered and said, the consequence of letting me search you is to cut you into pieces. Jun Changshao said, what if I take the initiative to hand them over? Iron Saber Little Overlord said proudly, I can leave your corpse intact. Jun Changshao touched his nose and said, you mean, no matter what I choose, I can't escape death? Ha ha ha. Iron Saber Little Overlord laughed and said, boy, from the moment you stepped into the Black Mountain, you were destined to die. There is no life, Puchi. Jun Changshao had unknowingly summoned the cold-edged sword and directly pierced it into his chest. He said in a low voice, sorry, I haven't lived long enough, so I will let you die first. Iron Saber Little Overlord was startled. His face immediately turned ferocious as intense pain spread through his body. Puchi! Jun Changshao pulled out his sword. Iron Saber Little Conqueror's body immediately fell and rolled down the stairs, leaving a long trail of blood on the stone steps. Seventh brother. The bandit called Brother Six angrily pulled out his saber. Swoosh! At this moment, the cold-edged sword was placed on his neck. Jun Changshao's eyes were cold as he said, answer me, did you kidnap the disciples of the Iron Bone clan? Gulp. The bandit called Brother Six swallowed his saliva and said in horror, yes, Puchi. The sword slashed and blood splashed 3 feet away. Ugh! The bandit covered his bleeding neck in despair until he lost consciousness and rolled down the mountain path like Iron Saber Little Overlord. Swoosh! 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 After killing 2 people, it alerted the people above. More than 10 bandits rushed down with weapons and stared at Jun Changshao angrily. Clang! Jun Changshao sheathed his sword and said indifferently, tell your leader that the leader of the Iron Bone clan is here to ransom them. Chapter 26. Halfway up the Black Mountain, there was a strategic location. The throat leading to the interior was not only blocked by rows of wooden stakes, but there were also sentry towers erected at every distance, giving the place a military feel. Jun Changshao walked through the narrow passage, not in the mood to observe. He thought to himself, I killed someone. Yes. He killed people, 2 of them. Transmigrating to the Falling Star continent and becoming a martial cultivator, he had to experience this kind of thing sooner or later. Strange. Jun Changshao was puzzled. When I cut off Elder Wei's arm at the grievance platform, I almost vomited blood. Why didn't I have any reaction when I killed someone for the first time? He killed 2 bandits with 1 sword strike each, and his state of mind was calm from beginning to end. The system explained, because the host has adapted to his new identity and has enough understanding of the Falling Star continent's law of the jungle, he can handle things calmly. Oh. Jun Changshao understood. Throwing away distracting thoughts, he began to size up the surrounding environment. This place is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, and the only entrance is blocked by layers of layers. It will be very difficult to attack. Of course. The government and the various sects suffered a lot in this place. Let's go. A bandit in front of him urged coldly. Behind him, dozens of bandits holding swords and spears followed, all glaring angrily at Jun Changshao. Two of their companions were killed, and they wanted to rush forward and chop this guy into meat paste, but the great master ordered them to bring him into the stronghold, so they could only suppress this thought. Third brother, what is the great master thinking? Why didn't he let the brothers do it, but let him into the mountain? This guy is the Iron Bone Sect master. The great master must have taken into account his identity in the Jianghu, so he didn't let us do it. Bah, this kind of trash, how can he be the Sect master? I have been wandering in the Azure Sun County for so long, but I have never seen a Sect master who is not even fully grown yet. The bandits talked and talked about Jun Changshao's identity as the Sect master. They all agreed that this guy was too inexperienced, and had no reason to be the Sect master. Sigh. The great master Jun sighed. At that moment, he wished he could put the words, "I am the Sect leader," on his forehead to prove that he was indeed the boss of Iron Bone. Brothers, do you think this guy is an imposter? If he dares to impersonate him and is exposed by the first master, he will definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Hee, I hope it's an imposter. That way, I can once again admire the first master's methods of torturing people. Under the escort of dozens of mountain bandits, Jun Changshao passed through layers of guards and stopped in front of a door made of wood. There were 3 words carved on it: Black Wind Stronghold. TSK TSK. The bandits had already established a stronghold in the mountains. Open the door. Creak. The 2 wide wooden doors were slowly pushed open, and the bandit leader said indifferently, "Kid, come in with me." Jun Changshao stepped into the stronghold. The interior of the Black Wind Stockade was larger than the Iron Bone Stockade, and there were many simple wooden houses on both sides. Paw! Paw! As soon as Jun Changshao walked in, he heard the sound of whips. In the open space in the distance, there were 5 wooden stakes, tied to 5 disheveled people. Their hair was disheveled, and they were covered in blood. There were eye-catching whip marks under their torn clothes. A muscular bandit with a bare upper body was lashing one of the people with a whip. There was only the sound of whips, and no screams. Jun Changshao frowned slightly. He knew that the person being whipped did not scream because he was already on the verge of death. Save me. Suddenly, he heard a weak groan. Jun Changshao lowered his head. A man was slowly wriggling on the ground. His legs had been cut off, dragging 2 long trails of blood. His face was abnormally ferocious, and he was extremely weak. His eyes were filled with fear, despair, and pain, as if he knew he was going to die, but he still hoped to live. Pucci! The broadsword fell, and the head rolled. The bandit raised his broadsword and kicked the head into a brazier full of charcoal residue. He cursed, running around without legs. Brother Nyo, that guy will die sooner or later. Why not let him die a painful death? In my opinion, Brother Nyo is just soft-hearted. You want him to leave quickly. The bandits next to him joked. Soft-hearted my ass. The bandit called Brother Nyo cursed, he dirted the ground. I have to clean it up. Makes sense, makes sense. Everyone burst into laughter. Jun Changshao frowned even harder. He did not catch the slightest pity in the eyes of these bandits. There was only cold-blooded cruelty. Brother Nyo put away his broadsword and looked over. The other bandits also jumped down from the platform and stared at Jun Changshao with a mocking look. Crack! A bandit raised his hand and made a throat-slitting gesture. He made a strange sound, and then he laughed eerily. The other bandits scattered in the stockade saw a stranger come in, and they all looked at him coldly. For a moment, hundreds of bandits in the stockade stared at Jun Changshao. Paw, paw, paw. The bandit with the whip lashed a few more times. He grabbed the hair of the person tied to the wooden stake and cursed, "Damn, he died again. He is so weak." Jun Changshao did not say a word and walked straight. After walking for a few dozen steps, they saw many people either hanging or hanging. All of them had their heads lowered, and it seemed that they were no longer breathing. Damn it! In the shabby house on the right, a bandit walked out and cursed angrily, "I was careless and that woman bit her tongue to commit suicide. Hee hee, I'll go take a look." "Damn, Xiao Ba, how anxious are you? You even dare to do a dead person?" A bandit joked. He called Xiao Ba into the house and said, "I've been holding it in for half a year. Even if it is a sow, I dare to do it." Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter. Jun Changshao walked past them and his eyes gradually became cold. This was not a stockade or a den of bandits. It was a slaughterhouse like hell. The bandits here were no longer human, but a group of cruel and bloodthirsty beasts. Jun Changshao did not want to be a good person. However, along the way, he saw corpses that had been tortured and whipped to death. When he saw the piles of corpses piled up together, he became furious. Seeing the stockade like a slaughterhouse only made Jun Changshao angry. Then, when he saw the heads kicked into the brazier and saw the despair, fear, and helplessness in the eyes before death, the only thought in his mind was to kill them all. Chapter 27. Calm down, calm down. The first thing to do now was to rescue the disciples and then deal with the inhumane bandits. Jun Changshao suppressed his anger and killing intent and arrived at the hall at the end of the hall. There were 10 bandits standing at the door. Their aura seemed to have reached level 7 or 8 meridian opening. They should be the elites of Black Wind Stronghold. While thinking, he stepped into the hall. However, as soon as he entered, he felt numerous cold gazes locking onto him. There were 8 martial artists in the hall, their brows filled with killing intent. These people are at least level 10 meridian opening. Jun Changshao thought. Kid. A fair-skinned, long-haired man reclined on a chair and smiled, "You have guts to kill my Black Wind Stronghold's men." A middle-aged man with a full beard said, "If not for the head's order, I would have twisted your head off and kicked it like a ball." Jun Changshao ignored him and said with his hands behind his back, "I have personally come to Black Mountain to redeem my people. Is this how you treat your guests when you send these dog-meat lackeys to welcome me? Despicable guy. How dare you call us dog-meat?" The 8 martial artists in the hall stood up angrily, their eyes filled with killing intent. They had the urge to kill Jun Changshao. Ha ha ha. At this moment, a loud laughter sounded. A burly middle-aged man walked in from the side door and sat on a tiger-skin chair. "Head Jun, we are honored by your presence. Your presence brings light to my Black Wind Stronghold." "Headmaster." The 8 martial artists said respectfully. Jun Changshao's face was calm, but when he saw the spirit energy around the man, he thought, he should be a martial disciple. Although martial disciple was only the 2nd realm in the Falling Star continent, it was much stronger than a meridian opening realm martial artist. In Jun Changshao's memory, a martial disciple was comparable to 10 level 12 meridian opening realm martial artists. With the support of a high-grade martial technique, one punch could easily carry 10,000 pounds of force. Damn it! Facing a martial disciple, the pressure was too great. "Headmaster," Jun Changshao said, "I don't like to talk nonsense. This time, I came to the Black Wind Stockade only to take my disciples away." The Great Master raised a finger and said with a smile, "Zhou Tianba, won't beat around the bush. 100 taels per head. After paying the money, Sect leader Jun can take them away at any time." 100 taels? Jun Changshao frowned. "It's a little expensive." He only had 300 taels of silver on him, so he could only redeem 3 of them with money. Zhou Tianba said, "I'm giving you the lowest price because of Sect leader Wang. If it were any other sect, it would be at least 200 taels per head." "Oh?" Jun Changshao said, "Does Dadangjia know our sect's previous sect leader?" Zhou Tianba leaned back in his chair as he reminisced about the past. "We used to meet quite often in the small Phoenix brothel. We can be considered old buddies." "Brothel mates," Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. It turned out that this fellow was the same as sect leader Wang, who liked to visit brothels. If that's the case, Jun Changshao said, Dadongjia, why don't you give Jun a lower price because we're brothel mates? Ha! Does this fellow think he's selling vegetables at the market? Why is he bargaining? The 8 small leaders sneered. Zhou Tianba said, Sect leader Jun, how much will it take for you to accept it? Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, how about this, Jun will give you 100 taels, and Dadongjia will release all of our disciples. If money could solve the problem, he would rather redeem his disciples first, send them to a safe area, and then go to the Black Wind Stockade alone. Huh? 100 taels? Is this fellow bullshitting? A few of the small leaders started laughing. Zhou Tianba said with a gloomy face, Sect leader Jun, the price you gave is not sincere at all. Jun Changshao shrugged helplessly and said, our Iron Bone sect is very poor. We can only give you 100 taels to redeem our disciples. Dadongjia, please make an exception because you're brothel mates with sect leader Wang. Exception? Zhou Tianba snapped his fingers and said, okay. Soon, 2 bandits came out of the side door with a young man who was tied up. Jun Changshao frowned. The young man was the disciple he had recruited in Qingyang City. His hair was messy, and his face was swollen. It was obvious that he had been severely abused. Sect leader, the young man saw Jun Changshao. His desperate eyes flashed with hope. He shouted weakly, help me. Help me, plop. He was thrown in front of the tiger-skin chair. Zhou Tianba stepped on the young man's head and laughed, Sect leader Jun, if I kill him today, I will have 1 less head. This way, you won't have to pay more ransom. Jun Changshao clenched his fists behind his back. Anger surged from his body. As the leader of a sect, how could he watch his disciple be humiliated? Don't kill me, the young man seemed to feel the breath of death. He said helplessly, don't kill me. I don't want to die. Don't kill me. I don't want to die. I'm willing to join the Hafen gang. I'm willing to be your slave. Please don't kill me. Don't kill me. Ha ha ha. What a coward. Look, his pants are wet. He must have peed himself. The 8 bandits laughed unscrupulously. Jun Changshao was even angrier. Damn it. What kind of disciple did I recruit? Puchi Zhou Tianba pulled out the long sword hanging in front of the chair and cut off the young man's head. He laughed and said, Sect leader Jun, since you are so afraid of death, I'll take care of you. Ding! Sect members, 99100. Jun Changshao ignored the system announcement that the number of members had decreased. He slowly raised his head and looked at Zhou Tianba. I have something to say, he said coldly. This sentence was full of anger. He was very angry and disappointed that his disciple was so afraid of death. However, he was still a disciple of the unyielding sect. What right did outsiders have to kill him? This guy seems to be angry. Shouldn't the sect leader thank him for taking care of a disciple who is afraid of death? The 8 bandits laughed disdainfully. Since Jun Changshao came in, they didn't take him seriously. Zhou Tianba's eyes flashed coldly, but he also put away the long sword. He smiled and said, Sect leader Jun, what's your problem? Jun Changshao said coldly, the disciples of the unyielding sect, no matter if they are afraid of death or have made a big mistake, only I can punish them. No one else has the right to intervene. Ha ha ha. Does this guy really think he is the sect leader? A 9th-rate sect, even worse than the Hafen gang, dares to talk nonsense in front of the sect leader. He must be tired of living. Zhou Tianba put his hands together and rested his chin on the back of his palms. He said, so, I am meddling in your business? Yes. Jun Chang smiled and said, you're meddling in other people's business. The smile on Zhou Tianba's face disappeared, and his eyes became cold. The 8 bandits saw this and realized that their sect leader was angry. Boy! The bearded man slapped the armrest and shouted angrily, our sect leader will give you some face since we are all from the Jianghu. Don't think too highly of yourself. Pucci. Jun Changshao held the cold sword and stabbed it into the bearded man's chest. Chapter 28. As the bearded man spoke, Jun Changshao's eyes flashed coldly. He took out the cold-edged sword and stabbed the bearded man in the chest. 3 words: fast, ruthless, and accurate. Ninth brother. The 7 underlings were furious. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Zhou Tianba's eyes gradually turned cold, and the spiritual qi around him began to boil. First master. Jun Changshao said calmly. Your underling interrupted. He doesn't know the rules at all. I'll help you clean up the sect today. You don't have a problem with that, right? Kill my disciple? Sure, pay with your underling's life. As the sect leader of the Iron Bone clan, he was very strong at this moment. Drip, drip. Blood flowed from the wound and dripped on the ground. Swoosh! Jun Changshao pulled out his sword, and blood gushed out. The bearded man looked ferocious. He wanted to step forward and punch, but the severe pain from his heart and the loss of consciousness were not enough for him to do so. Finally, he fell to the ground with a plop. A level 12 Meridian Opening Realm cultivator was easily killed. The main reason was that the cold-edged sword was too sharp, and Jun Changshao's sword was so fast that the bearded man could not dodge it. Damn it! A bald leader rushed forward and gathered strength in his fists. He said angrily, You killed my 9th brother. Die! Back off! Zhou Tianba said in a low voice. His voice contained a wave of energy that rippled in the air. The bald martial artist who attacked suddenly stopped. He dispersed the power in his fists and returned to his seat angrily. What a strong aura! Jun Changshao was shocked. At the same time, he withdrew his sword. If Zhou Tianba hadn't stopped him, he could have used many methods to cut down the bald man. Forget it. I'll let you live a little longer. Clap, clap. Zhou Tianba clapped his hands and smiled. Sect leader Jun's sword was fast and accurate. It's enough to prove that your sword Dao is extraordinary. I admire you. How could he laugh after killing his underling? Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said indifferently, You flatter me, first master. With my skills, I can only bully your subordinates. If I were an expert, I would definitely make a fool of myself. When he said the word subordinates, he deliberately looked at the other small leaders. It was obvious that he did not take them seriously. Crack! The leaders were so angry that they gritted their teeth. The armrests that supported their palms were also crushed. Sect Master Jun, Zhou Tianba put on a fake smile and said, Don't talk nonsense. I have 31 disciples of your sect here. You can take them away after paying 3,100 taels. It was no wonder that she could hold herself back. She still wanted money. I'll give you 100 taels, Jun Changshao said. I'll take my disciples and leave. Our grudges will be resolved. Paw! Zhou Tianba slapped the armrest and said coldly, Jun Changshao, I have shown you enough respect. Don't be so ungrateful. He couldn't help but explode. It wasn't easy for him to hold it in for so long before revealing his fangs. First master. The bald martial artist stood up and said angrily, Let us kill him. We can take his money back. Yes. Kill him and avenge 9th brother. The other 6 leaders also stood up. Their eyes were full of murderous intent, and their fists were shining. They did not like Jun Changshao since he came in. Now that he killed the 9th master, they could not wait to skin him and avenge their brother. Kid! Zhou Tianba said coldly, Since you don't know what's good for you, don't be cruel. Swoosh! He waved his right hand and signaled for them to attack. Dang dang! The bald martial artist stepped forward again. Just as he was about to attack, Jun Changshao said indifferently, First master, this place is small. If you want to fight, you should fight outside, right? Zhou Tianba smiled coldly and said, "As you wish." Outside the main hall, the martial arts field was covered with mud. Nearly 200 bloodthirsty bandits surrounded the field and stared at Jun Changshao angrily. In the Qingyang County, Master Jun was surrounded by disciples from 2 eighth-rate sections. Now, facing hundreds of bandits, he felt like a sheep in a pack of wolves. "Kid." The bald martial artist stood in the field and took off his shirt, revealing his strong muscles. He said, "I let you live a little longer." "Really?" Jun Changshao smiled indifferently. "Damn, his smile is too annoying. Sixth manager, kill this guy and take revenge for the ninth manager and the 2 brothers who died. Killing him is too easy. We must break his tendons and hang him on a pillar for a few months." "Yes. Yes." The bandits jeered. They often use this kind of method. Otherwise, there would not be so many shriveled bodies around. Zhou Tianba sat on a high chair outside the martial arts field and said lightly, "Sixth master, this kid moves very fast. Don't be careless." Sixth master took a small step forward with his right foot, the tip of his foot sinking half an inch into the mud. He said with a sinister smile, "First master, I will let him know the meaning of fast." This posture, is sixth master going to use the 7 steps shadow transformation? That's a mid-level mortal rank movement skill. It is said that once you master it, you will only be able to see a shadow when using it. Sixth master rarely uses it. It's a great honor to be able to witness it today. As the bandits cried out in alarm, they looked at Jun Changshao with schadenfreude. They thought that once the sixth master used his movement skill, that Brad would definitely be beaten to the point where he wouldn't know which way was north. Ga. Everyone looked sluggish. Because when they looked over, the Iron Bone Sect's leader was stretching his legs, then stood up on his tiptoes and shook his head from side to side. "What is this guy doing? Are you having epilepsy again?" "Humph, in my opinion, he is just pretending to be crazy." The martial artists of the Falling Star continent did not know that they were actually stretching their muscles and bones, warming up before the battle. After a while, the warm-up was over. Jun Changshao leaned to one side and raised his right index finger. He gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "I don't know much. Don't scare me." Gah! Everyone was silent. The bandits looked at his strange posture and could not help but think that there was something wrong with his brain. "Damn it!" Sixth master cursed, "You don't know much. It's none of my business." As he spoke, he rubbed his toes in the mud. His eyes suddenly flashed coldly, and then he rushed over. 1 step, 2 steps, it was like a devil's step, ba, ba, ba. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 7 steps. When sixth master took the 8th step, the air behind him suddenly twisted and turned into a faint shadow. This was the 7 steps shadow transformation. When a martial artist mastered it, after 7 steps, there would be a shadow, and the speed would increase by several times. Just as expected. Sixth master, who was dragging the shadow, suddenly sped up and rushed over like a ray of light. So fast. Jun Changshao's face changed. At this moment, he could only see a shadow and could not see Baldi Chang clearly. Chapter 29. Oh my God! The 6th elder is so fast. I can only see his shadow. I can't even see the hem of his clothes. Is that a mid-tier mortal movement skill? That's terrifying. The bandits were full of admiration and envy. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Tianba said with satisfaction. 6th elder's 7 steps shadow shift has improved a lot since half a year ago. The 2nd elder, the fair-skinned man, smiled. With 6th elder's speed, it would be very difficult for me to catch him. If 2nd elder can't do it, then it's even more impossible for us. The fat 4th elder grinned. Why were they able to chat and laugh here? After the 6th elder sped up, he did not rush to attack Jun Changshao. Instead, he kept circling around him. Kid! I'll show you what speed is. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sixth master's footsteps continued to speed up. After images covered the martial arts field, and the wind generated brought up bursts of dust. The second elder shook his head and smiled. Sixth elder is flirting with that guy. No matter how fast the sword is, it can't be faster than sixth elder's speed. A few of the small leaders were full of smiles. Sixth elder, break his tendons and make him scream on the ground like a dog. Torture him until he's half dead. Then cut off his arms and legs, gouge out his eyes, and throw him into a vat for us to enjoy. Hundreds of bandits shouted loudly. Jun Changshao, who was standing in the middle of the practice field, had his hair messed up by the wind. His face was also covered in dust. He said impatiently, "They're buzzing around my ears like flies." Whoosh! He took a step forward, and the basic grade cold-edge sword appeared in his hand. He stabbed forward. Unfortunately, he did not manage to hit the sixth elder. Ha ha ha! The sixth elder is so fast. If he can hit him, then, Poochie. While they were talking, the bandits saw something fly out of the training ground. It drew a beautiful arc in the air, and then rolled outside the training ground. Looking closely, it was the sixth master's bald head. The bandits' expressions changed and they hurriedly turned around. The afterimage on the training field gradually disappeared. The sixth master dragged his headless body and ran a few laps before falling to the ground. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Jun Changshao maintained his sword stance and said indifferently, "Idiot, don't you know how to turn around? Why do you have to collide with my sword?" It turned out that after this fellow had casually poked the sword, he turned his wrist and raised the sword horizontally, turning the blade from up to down to left and right. The sixth elder circled around Jun Changshao in a clockwise direction. Because he was moving too fast, he was inevitably hit by the sword, and his head flew off from his body. Not to mention the incomparably sharp cold-edged sword, even if he pulled an iron wire in front of him, with Baldy Chong's speed just now, he would definitely be beheaded. It had to be said. With his 7 steps shadow transformation, the sixth head's speed was extremely fast. With Jun Changshao's 10th stage meridian opening realm cultivation, it was very difficult for him to catch a glimpse of the sixth head's figure. However, strength was not the only thing that mattered in a fight. Sometimes, one had to rely on one's brain. Otherwise, one would be no different from an ordinary person. Sixth brother. Sixth brother. Sixth master. Sorrowful cries came from outside the training field. Whoosh! In an instant, the atmosphere was filled with anger. 200 bandits locked onto Jun Changshao, their eyes flashing with undisguised killing intent. Damn it! The skinny 8th master and the short 7th master rushed into the field angrily. One of them was holding a Buddhist monk's knife, and the other was holding a mace. Bandits were bandits. After seeing their companions killed, they were controlled by anger and did not care about the number of bandits. Swish! Jun Changshao used his footwork to avoid the attacks of the 2 bandits. He smiled and said, "What? You can't beat me, so you want to bully me with your numbers? Go to hell." The 4th master and the 5th master's fists carried spiritual energy and attacked from behind. Swish! Jun Changshao stepped to the right side. The smile on his face disappeared, and his eyes flashed with coldness. He had realized that these cruel bandits would not follow the rules of the Jianghu. They were determined to kill him together. Big Master. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "Is this how the Heifeng Stockade treats their guests?" Zhou Tianba almost fainted when he heard this. "You killed 2 of my men on the Black Mountain. Then you entered the Heifeng Stockade and killed 2 of my men. How dare you call yourself a guest?" Humph. Zhou Tianba said with a gloomy look, "Kid, you killed my men. Even if you pay the ransom, I will kill you here." Swish! Swish! While they were talking, the 4 bandits attacked from 4 different directions. Jun Changshao was not confident that he could defeat 4 level 12 channel opening realm martial artists with the elementary grade cold edge sword. He immediately used the drifting cloud steps to dodge. He learned the drifting cloud steps when he was teaching a martial disciple in Qingyang City. Although its level was not as high as the 7 steps shadow, it was still at the elementary grade of mortal grade. It was more than enough to dodge the attacks of the 4 bandits. Thump, thump, thump. Jun Changshao used the drifting cloud steps and dodged left and right in the limited space. He then stopped in a safe area and said coldly, "You forced me to use my trump card." Huff, huff. Spiritual energy surged around him. Trump card? There are so many of us in the Haifeng stockade. Even if he has a trump card, he will die for sure. The bandits sneered. The 4 bandits stopped attacking and waited to see what kind of trump card Jun Changshao would take out. Zhou Tianba held his face and said with interest, "Kid, I hope you can take out a good trump card." Bandits killed and robbed. If the opponent took out a good trump card, such as a weapon or treasure, they would definitely take it. Huff. Jun Changshao released his spiritual energy and took a deep breath. After a while, the elementary grade cold-edged sword in his hand disappeared and was replaced by a saber-like weapon. Facing a martial disciple, 6 level 12 channel opening realm martial artists, and 200 fierce bandits, he finally took out the saber that was given to him by the Prime Minister. A saber? Zhou Tianba shook his head in disappointment. He also used a saber. The saber he used to kill the Iron Bone disciple was of the high grade of mortal grade. It was given to him by a white-bearded old man when he was traveling the Jianghu. It was called the Green Dragon Saber. Wait! Isn't this guy's saber a bit short? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. This was the first time he took out the saber, and he found that it was only half a foot long. Half a foot. It was about the size of a normal toothbrush. Fortunately, it was only 1 inch wide. Otherwise, Jun Changxiao would feel like an idiot who was using a toothbrush to fight the enemy. This was not scientific at all. It was more than 3 feet long in the infinite space ring. How could it be so small when he took it out? Even if there was a difference between a buyer's show and a seller's show, the difference was too big. This guy took out a saber. Even a normal dagger is longer than his saber. Fuck, even if I straighten my thing down there, it's longer than this thing. Ha ha ha. The hundreds of bandits around the training field laughed. Chapter 30. The unstoppable blade was short and small, like a mini toy, so when it was shown, it immediately caused the bandits to roar with laughter. Jun Changxiao wanted to find a hole to hide in. After all, it was too embarrassing. Impossible. Impossible. A knife that could only be unsealed by the opening talisman would not be so short and weak. There must be something special about it. Jun Changxiao comforted himself. He put 2 fingers on the hilt and said coldly, "Hand over the disciples of my sect, and there is still room for negotiation. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing all of you in the Haifeng stockade." Even if it was embarrassing, he had to act tough. It was just that he was holding a mini knife that looked like a toy, which looked very funny. Start a massacre? With that knife? Can this knife cut a watermelon? Throw away part of the hilt, and the rest of the knife can cut an apple. That's amazing. Ha ha ha. No, I'm laughing so hard that my stomach hurts. Many of the bandits were laughing so hard that tears were about to come out of their eyes. Kid. The 4 leaders either clenched their fists or waved their weapons. They walked over step by step and said, "Are you using your life to make a joke?" Phew. Jun Changxiao sighed and said, "Just take it as a joke." Cut the crap. Zhou Tianba said impatiently, "Capture him and search for anything valuable on him." Yes. Upon receiving the order, the 4 heads looked at each other and rushed over. This time, their attacks covered more than half of the area. Jun Changxiao, who was forced into a corner, could not escape. Unless he ran out of the field. But there were hundreds of bandits outside. Jun Changxiao had no doubt that if he took 1 step, he would be swallowed by the crowd and be in a more passive situation. He had no choice. He could only use the opening talisman. Bang! When the four leaders were about to attack, Jun Changshao merged his thoughts into the infinite space ring and crushed the opening talisman without hesitation. Ding! The host used the opening talisman X1. Ding! The seal of the hard knife has been unsealed. When the system notification sounded, Jun Changshao clearly felt that the hard knife in his hand was emitting psionic energy. Hoo-hoo! Right at this moment, the four managers attacked from different directions. Some of them leaped into the air, some struck out with their fists, some brandished their sabers, and some pressed down with their maces. The situation was perilous. Jun Changshao, who was in danger, placed his left hand on the scabbard and his right hand on the hilt. His body was half bent as he prayed for a miracle. He didn't forget to act pretentiously and said, "Bankai." Hoo-hoo! On the martial arts practice field, rays of light shot out. The bandits found it hard to open their eyes. Even Zhou Tianba, who was a martial disciple, had to close his eyes. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. Could it be that the unremarkable knife was a high-quality weapon? While he was thinking, the strong light suddenly weakened. Zhou Tianba opened his eyes and found that there was something like the tip of a knife in front of his nose. It wasn't similar, it was the tip of a knife. Zhou Tianba focused his eyes and looked at the tip of the knife. He saw Jun Changshao, who was 40 meters away, holding the hilt with one hand. Between him and Jun Changshao, there was a very long knife hanging in the air. Outside the martial arts practice field, it was silent. More than 200 people, more than 200 pairs of eyes, stared at the saber from Jun Changshao's hand, all the way to the great master's nose. The expressions on their faces had completely frozen. What about the four managers who attacked? They were scattered on the ground. Their bodies were either cut in half or cut in half. Their blood was mixed with the mud. They were all dead. When Jun Changshao pulled out the knife, the light flashed and they were all killed by the 40-meter-long knife. Gulp! Zhou Tianba swallowed his saliva. Cold sweat oozed out of his forehead. His palms on the armrest were trembling slightly. The length of the knife was not scary. What was scary was that the tip of the knife was emitting a cold light, which made it difficult for him to breathe. He had no doubt that if Jun Changshao took a small step forward, his head would be easily cut open by the knife. It was definitely not an ordinary weapon. It was definitely a medium-grade weapon. The first manager guessed the quality of the hard-to-withdraw knife. His heart beat faster and his eyes were filled with fear. The second manager and the others sitting on both sides were shocked. They didn't dare to act rashly. After all, the knife was too long. They could cut it with just a wave. Is this the hard-to-withdraw knife? Jun Changshao held the 40-meter-long knife in one hand. His expression was very interesting. The first wish weapon given by the system didn't let him down after the seal was removed. Its aura and power were far stronger than the primary grade cold-edge sword. But this 40-meter-long knife was too damn long. Just now, he thought it was too short. Now, he thought it was too long. This guy was really hard to please. Zhou Tianba, who was facing the knife, said in horror, "Sect leader Jun. Please put the knife away. Let's talk nicely." He was scared. He was really scared. Jun Changshao said lightly, "Once I pull out the 40-meter-long knife, it's hard to withdraw it, so, swoosh." With a twist of his wrist, the knife cut off the second manager's head. He said, "Give him a proper burial." Plop! The head rolled on the ground, and the expression on his face was still shocked. Jun Changshao's knife was not fast. The second manager should have been able to dodge it with his cultivation. Why was his head cut off? When the hard-to-withdraw knife came, it would lock on the target according to the user's thoughts and burst out a strong pressure, making it difficult for the target to move. In other words, the second manager was like a prisoner who was tied up and could only kneel on the ground with his head stretched out, waiting for the executioner to cut him off mercilessly. This was the first wish weapon given by the system. This was the hard-to-withdraw knife that could only be used after the seal was removed. After testing the knife, Jun Changshao said with satisfaction, "Strong." If it had been a moment ago, the bandits would have been enraged by the death of their second head. They would have charged over regardless of the consequences. But now, they were all cowering outside the martial arts field. Their faces were full of horror, and their eyes were full of fear. It was a 40-meter-long knife. As long as that guy turned his hand, it would definitely sweep over and kill a lot of them. Who dared to attack? Who dared to attack? If they did not attack, would they be able to avoid the disaster? The answer was no. Swoosh! Jun Changshao waved his right hand, and the 40-meter-long knife drew a stream of light. It was as if he had activated the unparalleled mode of cutting grass, and directly cut off more than 20 bandits. Paw! The only two leaders who were sitting on the chair slammed their palms on the armrest, and burst out with their 12th stage cultivation and attacked from the left and right. The length of the weapon had its advantages and disadvantages. The long weapon was good at long-range battles, but it was a taboo to be close to the enemy. The two took advantage of the gap between Jun Changshao's attack and rushed over, hoping to restrict him in close range. It was useless. Because Jun Changshao turned around and stared at them, the hard-to-withdraw knife's pressure swept over, and the two were instantly frozen on the spot. Poochie! Poochie! The knife flashed, and a head flew out. At this point, the 8 leaders of the Black Wind stronghold were all dead, and only Zhou Tianba was left. Swoosh! Jun Changshao raised his 40-meter-long knife and walked towards the stage step by step. Because he was locked in place, even though Zhou Tianba was a martial disciple, he could not move an inch under the terrifying pressure. He could only watch in horror as Chen Fan approached step by step like a demon. Thud! Jun Changshao stepped on the stage with one foot and pointed the hard-to-withdraw knife in his other hand. He said, "I will let you run 39 meters first." Chapter 31. The blade was 40 meters long, and the opponent ran 39 meters. Very particular, very particular. Zhou Tianba was unable to move under the strong pressure. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and the fear in his eyes became stronger. It seems. Jun Changshao said, "The leader is also afraid of death." Zhou Tianba was not too afraid of death. After all, as a bandit, he had long been prepared to die. However, under the pressure of the hard-to-retract blade, he experienced an unprecedented fear. It was as if he was in hell. Zhou Tianba was scared. At that moment, he wanted to live even more. Jun Chang smiled and said, "So today, this seat will clean up the house on behalf of the people of Azure Sun County and those wronged souls." "No, no, no." Zhou Tianba hurriedly said, "Leader Jun, I am willing to let go of your disciples. Do you still want the money?" Don't. The 40-meter blade would chop down at any time. Even if he had 10 times the courage, he would not dare to take it. He even regretted that he was foolish enough to kidnap the disciples of the Iron Bone clan and provoke such a terrifying guy. Zhou Tianba now had no doubt that if the other party wanted to kill him, whether it was himself or more than 200 men, they would all be cut under the blade. Jun Changshao said, "Leader, I am very curious. How do you know my name?" Zhou Tianba paused for a moment and said, "I have heard a little about the recruitment of hundreds of sects not long ago." Shwa! Jun Changshao pressed the blade down in front of his head. His eyes were cold and stern. "I hope you can tell the truth." The blade was only a palm away from his head. The strong pressure made Zhou Tianba's face turn green. At this time, he did not care about anything else. His voice trembled. "It's the Spirit Spring Sect. It was the Spirit Spring Sect who gave me a sum of money to kidnap your disciples and take your life. Go on your way." Jun Changshao got the answer he wanted and swung the blade. Poochie! Zhou Tianba kept his mouth open, and his head flew out from his body. That cowardly disciple of the Iron Bone clan had been beheaded by him. Now, Jun Changshao had beheaded him as well. It could be considered karma. "First Master, Seeing Zhou Tianba's headless body fall to the ground, the Black Wind Stronghold bandits were all terrified. Shua! Jun Changshao turned around, his eyes filled with endless killing intent. With all the leaders dead, the Black Wind Stronghold was without a leader. Logically speaking, letting these bandits go would be, let him off. Those who were whipped to death by bondage and stake, do you agree? Those corpses that were hung up, and dried under the sun, do you agree? The head lying in the brazier had despair, fear, and helplessness in its eyes. Do you agree? Finally, I'll ask Jun Changshao if he agrees. Disagree. These inhumane beasts, letting them go was the same as letting the tiger return to the mountain. Therefore, today, he borrowed the 40-meter saber to seek justice for the dead. Die! Jun Changshao said sinisterly. At that moment, his entire body was filled with endless killing intent. No, hundreds of bandits felt their scalps tingle and their faces turn pale. A strong aura of death surged into their hearts. Shwa! Shwa! The saber flashed and blood splashed. The desperate bandits would never have thought that the person who came in would be a god of death, a demon. Huff, huff. Flames rose from the brazier for no reason. The head with despair and fear in its eyes watched those beasts die one by one. Suddenly, the burning face seemed to smile. At the martial arts field, Jun Changshao stood with his saber in hand, his black hair fluttering in the wind. Countless corpses were scattered around him. Blood gathered into a river and the air was filled with a pungent smell. At this moment, the 10 leaders of the Black Wind Stronghold and more than 200 bandits were all dead. You have killed a total of 226 people. The system said. Jun Changshao, who had never killed anyone before, had killed too many people today. Should I kill them? In your previous world, even if they were the most evil, they would be judged and punished by the law. This is a different world with different laws. Not to mention their evil deeds, they should be killed for kidnapping and killing my disciples. The host has adapted to the falling star continent. Adapting is not my character. I will let the falling star continent adapt to me. Anyone who bullies and humiliates me will have to pay the price, including the Spirit Spring Sect. Buzz! The hard-to-keep saber flashed and immediately shrank from 40 meters to half a foot, turning into a mini saber again. Without it, it would have been really difficult for me to save the kidnapped disciples today. Jun Changshao inserted the small saber into the scabbard. Buzz! The moment the scabbard closed, the hard-to-keep saber trembled slightly, as if some kind of force was attached between the hilt and the scabbard. Jun Changshao was stunned. This saber won't be sealed again, right? Yes. The system said, the hard-to-keep saber is powerful. It is a double-edged saber, hurting others and the user. After using it, it will automatically seal itself. The host must continue to use the unsealing talisman to unseal it. Jun Changshao was speechless. However, thinking of the process of using it, he was a little scared. It was better to seal this powerful weapon so as not to accidentally hurt him. Wait! Jun Changshao was stunned. Double-edged saber? Hurting others and hurting oneself? The system said, you don't feel tired? Tired? I don't feel. Before he could say a word, Jun Changshao's body seemed to have been hollowed out, and he suddenly collapsed on the high platform weakly. The system said, after using the hard-to-keep saber, the host will be weak for 30 minutes. During this time, the host will have no strength and no defense. Even a 3-year-old child can kill you at will. What a fucking setting. Jun Changshao lay weakly on the stone floor and thought to himself, fortunately, I killed them all. Otherwise, I would be the one to die. 30 minutes passed quickly. Jun Changshao gradually recovered from his weak state. Then, he jumped up and walked into the side door of the hall. Soon, he found the stone prison at the back of the mountain. Sect leader? Sect leader is here. Sect leader is here to save us. The 30 or so disciples locked up in the stone prison saw Jun Changshao appear, and their first reaction was to be stupefied. Then, they began to shout with joy. Clang! The chains broke and the prison door opened. Jun Changshao put away the cold-edged sword and said with a smile, "My darlings, I've wronged you." The key to the strongest sect system was the disciples. Was it too much to call them my darlings? It was not excessive at all. It was very loving. The 30 disciples had goosebumps, but they were still deeply moved that the sect leader came to save them personally. At the training field, the rescued disciples looked at the corpses, the broken limbs, and the blood that had gathered into a river. Their faces stiffened, and some of them could not help but vomit. Senior brother, a disciple pointed at Zhou Tianba's head and said in shock, "It's the head of the mountain bandits." His head was cut off. Everyone looked over and gasped. The mountain bandits of Black Mountain had been wreaking havoc in Qingyang County for a long time. The government and the big sects could not do anything about it. Now, even their leader was dead. This was unbelievable. They were all killed by the sect leader alone. The sect leader is the only one in the stronghold. If he didn't kill them, who else could it be? Oh my God, this is too scary. In an instant, the admiration of the 30 disciples towards their sect leader was like a torrential river that flowed endlessly. Jun Changshao was not interested in the disciples' worship. At this moment, he had already found a secret passage in Zhou Tianba's bedroom that led underground. He walked down the stairs and was blocked by a locked iron door. He took out his sword and cut off the chain. He kicked the door open and saw a floor full of gold, silver, and jewels. I'm rich, I'm rich. Jun Changshao's eyes shone with a golden light. He took all the treasures without any hesitation. After returning from a rewarding journey, he put the azure dragon saber that was leaning on the tiger skin chair into his spatial ring. Then, he left with his disciples. Huff, huff. The Black Wind stronghold, which was like a military base, was engulfed in a raging fire. The stronghold, wooden posts, watchtowers, and corpses were burned to ashes in the flames. Ding! Congratulations, host, for completing the hidden mission, eliminate evil for the people. The reward is 50 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 50100. Damn! On the way down the mountain, Jun Changshao said in surprise, "So, destroying the Black Wind stronghold is a hidden mission. The reward is so high." Chapter 32. Jun Changshao brought his disciples down the mountain. The mountain bandits, their leader, and the Black Wind stronghold were burned to ashes in the fire, becoming a thing of the past. The harvest of this trip was quite bountiful. Not only did he obtain 50 contribution points for completing the hidden mission, but the gold, silver, and jewels in his spatial ring were piled up into a small mountain. Jun Changshao didn't know much about the currency of the Falling Star continent, but he could roughly estimate that it would be worth at least 10,000 taels of silver. Then I'll have the money to rebuild the inner courtyard. On the way back, sect leader Jun's face was full of smiles, but his eyes gradually became cold. Spirit Spring Sect. Spending money to hire bandits to kidnap my disciples. When Jun Changshao first came to the Black Wind stronghold, Zhou Tianba directly called him by his name. Who knew that there was something fishy going on? Kidnapping a disciple for ransom. If I don't go, the other disciples will be bitterly disappointed. If word gets out, it will damage the sect's prestige. If I go, even if I pay the ransom, I will still die. That's a good plan. Jun Changshao shook his head. Unfortunately, the leader and the Spirit Springs sect will never dream that I have an unstoppable blade that can easily destroy the Black Wind stronghold. Sigh. He rubbed his temples and said irritably, I just want to keep a low profile in the Falling Star continent and complete the main mission to survive. Why do you have to provoke me? Spirit Springs Sect. He stretched lazily and said, sooner or later, I'll go and seek justice from you. Why is it sooner or later, and not now? Because the unstoppable blade was sealed again. With his current cultivation, it would be a bit tricky to go to the Spirit Spring sect to seek justice. Is there an opening seal talisman in the store? Jun Changshao opened the data panel and searched the store, but didn't find an opening seal talisman. The system said, the opening seal talisman is not for sale. The host will only have a chance to obtain it if he completes a specific mission. There is a chance to obtain it from a specific mission? Jun Changshao shrugged. Does this mean that if I want to obtain the opening seal talisman, I have to look at my face? Yes. It's harder than winning the lottery. Sect leader Jun muttered. He always thought that he was an African, and that he was black when it came to looking at face. Eldest senior sister, second senior brother. The sect leader has returned with the senior and junior brothers. In the outer courtyard of Iron Bone, a disciple ran over excitedly and shouted loudly. Li Qingyang hurriedly walked out of the main hall. Seeing the sect leader safe and sound, and bringing back more than 30 disciples, the stone hanging in his heart finally fell. Although he had just entered the sect, the #1 genius of Qingyang City had already approved of Jun Changshao. The eldest disciple, Lu Qianqian, was different. She leaned against the entrance of the hall and glanced at Jun Changshao. She said indifferently, "How come you don't even have a wound on your body?" With the sect leader's return, Iron Bone became lively all of a sudden. What? The Black Wind stockade on the Black Mountain was destroyed by the sect leader? The disciples who didn't see the corpses on the ground were all dumbfounded when they heard about it. Li Qingyang said in disbelief, "Sect leader, did you really get rid of the bandit leader on Black Mountain?" Jun Changshao said, "Yes." Li Qingyang cupped his hands and said with admiration, "The bandits on Black Mountain have been harming the villagers for many years. The sect leader got rid of them undoubtedly for the people. It's just a small matter. It's not worth mentioning." Jun Changshao said. The government and the major sects repeatedly went up the mountain and were defeated time and time again. The sect leader got rid of them, but it was just a small matter. What was a big matter? Li Qingyang wondered. Sect leader, there were 32 disciples who were kidnapped. Why is one missing? Jun Changshao said, that coward was killed by the bandit leader. The disciple who begged for mercy in front of Zhou Tianba and was killed disappointed him. He also realized that he could accept any disciple, but integrity and loyalty were a big problem. Greedy for life and afraid of death. Li Qingyang understood something, so he didn't ask any more. Lu Qianqian was still leaning against the door of the main hall and said, "Sect leader, since the Black Wind stockade was destroyed by you, you should have a good harvest, right?" Jun Changshao said, "Just a little." When Li Qingyang learned that the bandits were destroyed, he thought of getting rid of evil for the people, which showed that he had a chivalrous heart. Lu Qianqian's focus was on the harvest. Clearly, she was not interested in anything else. She was only interested in money. My first disciple and second disciple have completely different personalities. Sect leader. Li Qingyang said, "Is the inner yard still under renovation?" Renovation, of course. Jun Changshao was rich now. He threw a few gold bricks to him and said, "Is this enough?" Enough. Enough. Although Li Qingyang was born in a famous family, he had been practicing all the time. He had never seen such heavy gold bricks. Have the other disciples reported to the sect? Sect leader, they are all here. Pass down the order. Gather at the martial arts practice field tomorrow morning. Yes. The next day. Jun Changshao wore a clean long robe and stood on the steps of the main hall. In the martial arts practice field, 98 disciples stood neatly. Because they were not given the uniform of the sect, they all wore different clothes. They looked out of place when they stood together. He had to find a tailor as soon as possible to make a batch of sect uniforms. Cough, cough. Jun Changshao coughed and put his hands behind his back. He said, "Since you have come to the Iron Bone sect, you must remember that the first principle of the sect is to be a member of the Iron Bone sect and do things of the Iron Bone sect." Then what is a person of the Iron Bone sect? What is a person of the Iron Bone sect? Jun Changshao paused for a moment and said, "Inside the sect, you will share honor and disgrace, advance and retreat together. Outside, you will be a person of the Iron Bone sect." All the disciples said in unison, "Share honor and disgrace, advance and retreat together, do things of the Iron Bone sect." Jun Changshao said again, "When faced with other people's humiliation and provocation, you must fight back to the best of your ability. Even in the face of death, you must straighten your spine. If you are not afraid of death, you will do things of the Iron Bone sect." "Yes!" all the disciples shouted in unison. "Okay, dismissed." Jun Changshao waved his sleeves and left. All the disciples in the martial arts practice field looked at each other in confusion. They thought to themselves, what did the sect leader mean by, "Oh"? It was the first time he gathered all the disciples for a sect meeting. Jun Changshao did not talk too much. He just pointed out the most important principle. Of course, the sect could not have only one principle. There must be more comprehensive sect rules. So he called Li Qingyang over to discuss. "Sect leader, the sect rules are set by you and the higher-ups of the sect. I am not qualified to participate." Li Qingyang said humbly. "If I say you are qualified, then you are qualified." Jun Changshao handed over the written sect rules and said, Quick, see if there is anything that needs to be changed or added." This, Li Qingyang was quite embarrassed, but he still read the sect rules on the paper and made the corresponding corrections. He also added some necessary sect rules. For example, the disciples could not leave the sect without permission, and could not kill each other. After some discussion, the Iron Bone sect rules were preliminarily completed. It was no different from the other sect rules, but it emphasized more on being an Iron Bone sect person and doing things of the Iron Bone sect person. Jun Changshao handed over another piece of paper and said, "Go to the town and find a good tailor shop. Make 2 sets of school uniforms for each of them according to the blueprint and the ratio of male and female disciples in the sect." School uniforms? Li Qingyang was a bit confused. Jun Changshao said, "The uniform worn by the sect." "Oh." Li Qingyang took it and saw the different uniforms drawn on the paper. He was stunned and said, "Sect? Sect leader? Aren't these uniforms a bit, go?" "Yes." Chapter 33. Li Qingyang went down the mountain on the same day. He went to a good tailor shop in town and paid a deposit. In a few days, more than 200 sets of the sect's clothing were delivered. With enough money, it was easy to get things done. Jun Changshao ordered the disciples to change into brand new sect clothing and then gather at the training field. After a long time, the male disciples led by Li Qingyang came over. They were wearing purple robes with a short shirt inside. Their trousers, waistbands, wristbands, and boots were also purple. "Second senior brother, these clothes are too eye-catching. The collar of the short shirt is so wide open. Their entire chest is almost exposed. They will definitely be laughed at when they go out wearing this." The disciples kept complaining. The mainstream clothing of the falling star continent was similar to that of the ancient dynasties on Earth. The sect clothing designed by Jun Changshao was bright, simple, and unconventional. It was hard for them to accept. Sigh. Li Qingyang sighed. He had seen the sketches of the sect leader's clothing. It was easy for him to get used to it, but when he wore it, it was still very difficult. After a while, the female disciples came out of the inner court together. They were wearing red short shirts with light gauze around their wrists and a thin and long belt around their waists, which outlined their slim figures perfectly. The knee-length jacket was very short and they didn't have any undergarments. A pair of fiery red boots over their knees wrapped around their slender legs. This female clothing abandoned the cumbersome and wide mainstream female clothing of the continent. It looked light and simple, but valiant and heroic. The female disciples chosen by Jun Changshao were all good-looking. They were wearing the same clothes, which highlighted their slim figures. They could be described with the word beautiful. Wow! Senior sisters and junior sisters are so beautiful. The male disciples leaned together with silly smiles on their faces. They looked like perverts. Senior sisters, they are looking at us. It's so embarrassing to wear such clothes. The women of the falling star continent were more traditional. Most of them covered their bodies tightly. It was definitely difficult for them to accept such simple and masculine clothing. The deep-rooted ideology made the male and female disciples unable to get used to the avant-garde fashion clothes designed by Jun Changshao. They had to get used to it even if they didn't want to. This was the sect leader's order. They couldn't go against it. Eldest senior sister is out. Someone shouted, and everyone looked towards the entrance of the inner courtyard. They saw the beautiful Lu Qianqian, wearing a red short-sleeved shirt and fiery red boots, walking out with a frown. This woman often wore a white dress and light muslin, like an otherworldly fairy. Now that she had changed into a fiery red blouse, she was like a delicate and beautiful rose. However, it was a rose with thorns. Because her face was covered in frost and her starry eyes were slightly angry, as if they were burning flames, there was a different type of charm to her. The disciples hurriedly retracted their gazes and secretly cursed, who made senior sister unhappy. Ta! Lu Qianqian stopped at the front of the martial arts practice field. Because she used too much strength, the ground trembled. The disciples behind her were so scared that they took a few steps back, keeping a certain distance from the eldest senior sister. Li Qingyang shook his head. He knew that since grand senior sister was so angry, she definitely had a problem with the sect's uniform. Ahem. At this moment Jun Changshao walked out of the main hall in a white robe. He had a gray-white belt around his waist, and even his boots were white. This tailor-made sect leader's uniform was white. Coupled with his good looks, he looked like a gentleman from an aristocratic family. Not bad, not bad. As Jun Changshao walked, he admired himself. I finally look like a sect leader. Suddenly, he noticed Lu Qianqian, who had already changed into the sect's uniform. He held his chin and said, "A beautiful woman looks beautiful in any clothes." However, when he met Lu Qianqian's eyes and saw the flames in her eyes, he couldn't help but shut his mouth. Sect leader. Lu Qianqian said coldly, "I hate red." Jun Changshao smiled and said, "Red represents joy and liveliness. Isn't it the favorite color of you girls?" "I hate it. I hate it," Lu Qianqian said. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched slightly. All the disciples were present. She didn't give him any face at all. Lu Qianqian also realized that she had lost control of her emotions. She took a deep breath and said with a struggling and painful expression, "If sect leader insists that I wear it, I can only obey." Although she often attacked Jun Changshao, she was still a disciple. Otherwise, she wouldn't force herself to wear the sect's uniform in her room. Seeing the strange expression on the woman's face, Jun Changshao said to himself, "This is definitely not just because she hates red. There might be an unknown story that is very painful for her, but she doesn't want to think about it." "I understand." He said, "Qingyang, go down the mountain and change your senior sister's uniform to white according to this style." "Yes." Li Qingyang turned and left. He thought to himself, what is grand senior sister's background? During this period of contact, although Lu Qianqian was taciturn, her behavior showed that she was extraordinary. Perhaps she had an unknown identity and background. Since you have changed into the sect's uniform, it means that the life of the sect has officially begun. From tomorrow onwards, your second senior brother will be in charge of your daily training. Jun Changshao announced. Li Qingyang, who had not yet left, almost fell to the ground. He was in charge of rebuilding the inner and outer courtyards, helping to modify the sect's rules, going down the mountain to customize the sect's uniform, and now he was in charge of teaching the daily cultivation. Am I a disciple or a steward? Sigh. Li Qingyang sighed and said to himself, it seems like I've fallen into a ditch. That's it. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, everyone, disperse. Yes. The disciples received the order and dispersed. Qianqian. Jun Changshao said, "Come to the main hall. I have something to say." Lu Qianqian followed him into the main hall. As soon as she walked in, she said, "I have offended the sect master just now. I am willing to be punished." Jun Changshao sat on the sect master's chair. His right elbow was on the armrest, and his palm was on the side of his face. He said, "If I wanted to punish you, I would have done it outside." Lu Qianqian was silent. Jun Changshao's other hand was on the armrest. He crossed his palms and rested his chin on them. He said, "I have been in the Iron Bone sect for some time. I know nothing about your identity as the grand disciple." He still took this step. There was no other meaning. He just felt that as the sect master, shouldn't he know the identity of his disciple? Lu Qianqian said, "My name is Lu Qianqian. This is my identity." Jun Changshao was speechless. He said, "I mean, where are you from, where do you live, how many people do you have, and how many acres of land do you have?" Lu Qianqian said, "I am from another place. My parents are both dead. I don't have any land or land." This answer was very perfunctory. Jun Changshao was very dissatisfied. "Sect master." Lu Qianqian looked at him. The coldness on her face faded slightly. She said in a deep tone, "Knowing too much may not be a good thing. It may be a disaster." "Disaster?" Jun Changshao touched his nose and said, "It sounds scary." "Fine, fine." He waved his hand and said, "Since you don't want to say, I won't force you. Let's talk about business. I will leave the daily cultivation of the female disciples to you. Second junior brother teaches the male disciples, and I teach the female disciples. What will you do, sect master?" Lu Qianqian looked at him. Cough, cough. Jun Changshao said, "Of course I will be in charge of supervising. Occasionally, I will give pointers to the disciples to solve their problems and shortcomings in martial arts." Lu Qianqian said suspiciously, "I think sect master wants to be lazy. You want to be a hands-off shopkeeper, right? How is that possible?" Jun Changshao pretended to be serious and said, "I still need to develop the sect. I still need to rely on you disciples to make the Iron Bone sect famous in the mainland. How can I be lazy? Famous in the mainland?" Lu Qianqian pouted and said softly, "You are dreaming again." Chapter 34. Jun Changshao wanted to personally teach the disciples, but he was only at the 10th stage of the meridian opening realm. His understanding of the martial Tao was only that of a small novice. He had no experience in the martial Tao and his cultivation was not high. He could only rely on the most powerful sect system. Unfortunately, there was a damned restriction that prevented him from buying insight talismans. Sigh. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged in his room and rubbed his temples. "I can only let the eldest and second disciples teach the disciples first. When I can buy insight talismans, I'll personally teach them." The next day, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Li Qingyang led the male disciples to the martial arts practice field and began to practice. Since their cultivation was at the 2nd or 3rd stage, most of them were practicing the basics. Not long after, Lu Qianqian arrived with 20 female disciples. She was dressed in white and looked like an otherworldly fairy. Because the color of her clothes had changed, the frost on her face had weakened a bit. The daily training was handed over to the 2 disciples. Sect leader Jun sat in the hall and opened the system panel out of boredom. Seeing that the sect mission was still not available, he said gloomily, "System, when will this damned mission be released?" "Wait." The system panel replied cleanly. Jun Changshao was speechless. He could only operate the meditation technique and absorb the heaven and earth's spiritual energy to condense it. He still had 50 contribution points. He did not consider exchanging them for experience points, nor did he consider exchanging them for goods. He planned to use them in an emergency. Sect leader. After a while, Li Qingyang walked over and said, "Does our sect have a unique heart technique?" Yes, the qi condensation technique. Jun Changshao replied. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. The qi condensation technique is an unorthodox heart technique. How can we let the disciples practice it? That's true. Jun Changshao began to think. Should he write down the meditation technique and let the disciples practice it? No, no. This was the heart technique practiced by the elders of the Tsang Mountain sect. It was not appropriate to use it as the sect's heart technique. Shwa. Jun Changshao pulled open the system panel, opened the beginner's store, and thought to himself, the store has a martial technique like the 9-stage collapsing fist, there should also be a mental cultivation method, right? Unfortunately, when he opened the beginner's store, other than the 9-stage collapsing fist, there wasn't a single mental cultivation technique manual. What should I do? Jun Changshao suddenly felt depressed. The system reminded, the host can pull down the menu and the old goods will be replaced by the new goods. There's a refresh function. Jun Changshao was overjoyed and was about to use his mind to pull down the item panel. The system reminded, the next time you scroll down, 10 sect contribution points will be automatically deducted. Please consider carefully. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. No wonder it reminded him out of goodwill. It was a paid function. What to do? Pull it down, or not? Jun Changshao was troubled by the fact that there were many good products out there. For example, the basic grade Insight Talisman and Aptitude Modification Elixir. Once they were replaced with new products, it would be impossible to buy them anymore. The system said, "Host, please rest assured. All purchased items will be stored in the purchased goods inventory. Even if the store refreshes, you can continue to purchase them." Is that so? Jun Changshao was overjoyed. Of course, he understood that the system's careful explanation had only one purpose, and that was to encourage him to spend contribution points. Ah, as you wish. Jun Changshao's thoughts moved and he pulled down the store's panel. He saw that the old goods had disappeared from the grid and were replaced by new ones. Ding! Sect contribution points, 40100. Jun Changshao had not only spent 10 contribution points, but the Purchased Goods button had also appeared on the right side of the beginner's store. He clicked on it and saw that the beginner's healing pills and other items that he had previously purchased were all listed there. However, most of them were grayed out. It could be seen that although the items were refreshed, the time limit for purchasing them would not be refreshed. Jun Changshao retrieved the Purchased Goods panel and began to examine the beginner's store. After the refresh, there was a wide variety of new goods. However, almost all of them started with the beginner's store. The exchange price was also generally 10 contribution points. Jun Changshao's heart grew colder as he continued to drag down the list of goods. This was because among the refreshed goods, there wasn't even a single fist technique manual. It's over, it's over. 10 contribution points have been wasted in vain. If he had known that this would be the result, he might as well have exchanged for a beginner's cold-edged sword. Ha! Jun Changshao continued to scroll down the list. He found a grid where there was a yellowed ancient book with the words I Jing Jing written on it. There's such a thing. As far as he knew, I Jing Jing was one of the best Shaolin martial arts books in the world. It was simply inconceivable that it was being sold in the store. It would be even more awesome if it could be replaced with a 98K. His mind moved and he clicked on the item's introduction. Item, I Jing Jing. Description: one of the 2 scriptures left behind by Patriarch Bodhidharma when he was facing the wall at Mount Song. Function: strengthens the muscles and bones, unclogs the meridians, tempers the willpower, and tempers the body. Advantage: suitable for channel opening stage martial artists. After successful practice, not only can it improve the body, but it can also increase the success rate of breaking through the channels by 50%. Disadvantage: only suitable for channel opening stage martial artists. Price: 10 contribution points. Grade: Beginner's Divine Level Mental Cultivation Method. Looking at the last grade introduction, Jun Changshao was stunned. He subconsciously slapped his face and said in disbelief, "This I Jing Jing is a beginner's divine level mental cultivation method? He thought he saw wrongly. In fact, it was indeed a beginner's divine level. According to the Falling Star Continent's classification of martial skills, Jing was only a beginner's divine level mental cultivation method. Fuck. After confirming that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him, Jun Changshao directly jumped up from his chair. 10 contribution points for a low-grade divine grade body metamorphose scripture cultivation method. This was absolutely a terrifying thing. Even the system couldn't stand it anymore, saying, "Host's luck is really good. The probability of this kind of divine level mental cultivation method being refreshed in the beginner's store is less than 1%. Ha ha ha." Jun Changshao threw his head back and laughed loudly, roaring in his heart, "This luck, I'm definitely going to enter Europe." What was he waiting for? Definitely buy. 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 Sect leader Jun clicked on Jing and bought it without hesitation. Ding. Host spent 10 contribution points and obtained Jing X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding. Sect contribution points, 30100. Jun Changshao hurriedly entered the spatial ring and held the Jing manual in his hand, excitedly saying, "Success in cultivation, increasing the success rate of opening channels by 50%, this is definitely a divine level mental cultivation method." What was the most difficult thing in the Falling Star Continent's early stages of martial arts? Of course, it was to open the channels. The original owner of this body, after entering the second level of the channel opening stage, challenged the third level of the channel opening stage. In the end, he failed every attempt and failed until his death. As long as one succeeded in cultivating Jing, even if one's aptitude was lacking, there was still a 50% chance of opening the channels. Sect leader Jun couldn't wait to succeed in cultivating Jing. That way, he wouldn't have to rely on contribution points to exchange for experience points, and could use spiritual energy to open the channels. Chapter 35. Jun Changshao spent 10 contribution points to refresh the beginner's store. He had indeed found a treasure, because the divine grade Jing could be cultivated as long as one was at the channel opening stage. What was even better was that Jing not only provided a 50% success rate in breaking through the channels. It could also strengthen the tendons and bones, clear the meridians, temper the will, and temper the body. Jun Changshao thought, the introduction said that this is one of the 2 scriptures left behind by Patriarch Bodhidharma when he was facing the wall. Could it be that there is also cleansing marrow scripture? Shwa! He continued to scroll down, but he didn't see the words cleansing marrow scripture at the end. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "It's already very lucky to get a divine grade mental cultivation method. How could there be another scripture at the same time?" Ding! Host has exchanged for a mental cultivation method. The sect's cultivation method function has been automatically activated. The system's voice rang in his ears. Jun Changshao was startled, and hurriedly opened the strongest sect system's attribute panel. Sect name, Iron Bone Clan. Sect leader, Jun Changshao. Sect level, 9th rate. Sect construction, level 1. Sect cultivation method, Jing, divine grade beginner level. Sect members, 99100. Sect contribution points, 30,100. Sect achievement value, 0 out of 100. Sect mission, none. Sect main mission, within 100 years. Omitted here. Sect cultivation method. Host Su has the system to exchange for a cultivation method. It will automatically match and become the sect's cultivation method. What's the use? With the sect's cultivation method, any disciple, including the sect leader, can cultivate it. Without a matching sect's cultivation method, I can't cultivate it. Yes. The system added, the sect's cultivation method is only limited to the sect leader and disciples. Outsiders cannot cultivate or steal it. If a disciple is expelled, betrayed, or abandoned, told, or revealed to others, the cultivation method's memory will also be forcefully erased. So it's like that. Jun Changshao was still considering whether to give the divine grade I Jing 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 to his disciple to cultivate, but thinking that the level was too high, if others knew, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble, so he gave up on the idea. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring would arouse the envy of others. He understood this principle. Now that the system had explained that outsiders were not allowed to cultivate or steal it, and the disciples were not allowed to tell or reveal it to others, he had nothing to worry about. Sect Master, are you all right? Li Qingyang waved his hand in front of Jun Chang's eyes. For no reason at all, the sect leader was conflicted, slapped himself in the face, and even jumped up and laughed foolishly. He must be worried. Jun Changshao got down from the chair and said seriously, it's fine. That. After thinking for a while, he said, let me continue to cultivate the basics first. As for the matter of the sect's mental cultivation method, I need to consider it carefully. Yes. Li Qingyang retreated. Jun Changshao thought for a while and decided, let's use I Jing Jing as our sect's unique mental cultivation method for now. The system said, the host can click on the sect's cultivation method and copy it to the disciple for cultivation. Copy? Jun Changshao clicked on the sect's cultivation method and a separate data panel appeared. The first column wrote I Jing Jing, divine grade early level, and below it was a copy button. Clicking on the button, a small box appeared. The content was please fill in the number of copies of the secret manual. Including myself, there are only 99 people in the sect. Let's copy 99 first. Jun Changshao's heart moved. He filled in the number 99 and then confirmed to submit. Ding! The host has spent 10 contribution points to copy I Jing Jing's secret manual X99. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 20100. Jun Changshao was startled. He immediately roared, copying a secret manual and still fucking spending contribution points. The system said, what else? Jun Changshao continued to roar, if I knew that I had to spend contribution points, even if I, Jun Changshao, had to copy them one by one or jump off a mountain outside, I still wouldn't exchange them. The system said, no one can copy a cultivation method purchased from the store, including the host. So it's like that. Jun Changshao sat down, took a sip of tea, and said slowly, so fragrant. Out of 50 contribution points, he spent 30 points to obtain a divine grade I Jing Jing and 99 copies. Overall, it was quite profitable. Next. Jun Changshao murmured, let the disciples each have a copy and quickly comprehend I Jing Jing so that they can open up more meridians. If the martial artists of the various sects knew that a divine grade cultivation method was in the hands of everyone in the 9th-rate sects, they would definitely be envious. The next day, Jun Changshao once again gathered the disciples in the training field and announced, after painstaking research, I have finally created a unique cultivation method suitable for my Iron Bone Jing sect. Gah! The disciples were dumbfounded. The sect leader created a cultivation method? Nonsense again. Lu Qianqian whispered. It was true that the cultivation methods of the Falling Star continent were created by people. But which one of them wasn't a martial Dao master? With his cultivation, it was difficult to create an unrated fist technique, let alone a cultivation method. The other disciples didn't think so. They had seen the sect leader guide the martial artists of the various sects, so they recognized his experience in martial arts. Come. Jun Changshao waved his hand and placed 99 copies of I Jing Jing on the table in front of him, saying, 1 copy each, take it and cultivate. Yes. The disciples went forward in an orderly manner and returned to their original positions after receiving the books. They couldn't wait to flip through them. Li Qingyang also opened it. But after studying it according to the incantation written on it, his face suddenly changed, and his hand that was holding the secret book began to tremble. The incantation seemed mysterious, but it was easy to understand when comprehending it. Combining Xian and perfectly, this Yi Jing cultivation method was definitely not comparable to the middle-grade cultivation method that his father spent a lot of money to buy for him. Could it be? Li Qingyang held his breath and tried to stop his hands from trembling. He was secretly surprised. Could it be a high-grade cultivation method? The other disciples didn't have his high-grade spiritual root, so it was difficult for them to notice the mystery of Yi Jing. But since it was created by the sect leader, it must be good, so they all treated it as a treasure. Lu Qianqian was the last to come up. She held the secret book in her hand and said lightly, "Sect leader, if the cultivation method you created is not as good as the one I'm cultivating, can I not learn it?" Jun Changshao lowered his head and whispered, "If the cultivation method you're cultivating reaches the divine grade, you can choose not to learn it." This guy was very close to her, and the tip of his nose was almost touching her earlobe. The fragrance of her body hit him, making his mind move. Lu Qianqian's starry eyes flashed with a trace of embarrassment, and she hurried down. Although she left, the fragrance was still there. Looking at the woman who fled in panic, Jun Changshao touched his nose and shook his head. "Are you shy? Looks like you're not cold enough." Lu Qianqian returned to her original position. Although she was expressionless, there was a faint feeling of heat on her face. Phew! She took a deep breath and calmed her mind. Looking at the secret book, she thought, sect leader's words just now, could it be that this Yi Jing is a divine grade cultivation method? Nonsense again. Lu Qianqian muttered and opened the secret book out of boredom. Then, she couldn't read it. Her expression was the same as Li Qingyang's. After a long time, she looked at Jun Changshao and asked doubtfully, "Was this cultivation method really created by sect leader? Do you think there's a need for me to lie?" Jun Changshao could stand in front of his disciple and shamelessly say that he created this cultivation method from the system store. It was really shameless. Lu Qianqian didn't speak, but her heart was in turmoil. She said, "A meridian-opening martial artist can create a divine-grade cultivation method?" Chapter 36. Lu Qianqian simply flipped through Yi Jing and confirmed that although the mental cultivation method seemed easy to understand, it was actually mysterious and unpredictable. It was definitely a genuine divine-grade mental cultivation method. The sect leader created it. She did not believe that a meridian-opening stage martial artist could create a divine-grade mental cultivation method. After all, it was too shocking. Lu Qianqian did not pursue the matter because the sect leader did not want to tell the truth. He must have his reasons. Thus, she quickly returned to her residence and began to study it carefully. Li Qingyang also returned to his room to comprehend the mental cultivation method. The two of them comprehended Yi Jing at about the same time. Sometimes they were silent, sometimes they were ecstatic. Their expressions changed every second. This Yi Jing is much stronger than the clear heart technique that I cultivate. It can completely replace it. Father, I rejected Blue Mountain Sect and joined Iron Bone Clan. What a wise choice I made. Li Qingyang was sure that the Five Streams Blue Mountain Sect would not have such a magical mental cultivation method. Huff! He took a deep breath to calm his mind and began to cultivate according to the mnemonic. The Yi Jing secret manual that the system exchanged for had the advantage of being easy to understand even though it seemed mysterious. With Li Qingyang's talent, he entered the state of cultivation after a few circulations. Lu Qianqian was even faster. She had already circulated Yi Jing several times. The more she cultivated, the happier she was. This mental cultivation method focuses on tempering the body. It does not conflict with my Taishan Ice Heart technique. We can cultivate it together. How could the sect leader have a divine-grade mental cultivation method? It's even a rare body-tempering mental cultivation method. Could it be that Iron Bone Clan is really a declining ancient sect? Divine-grade mental cultivation methods were rare in the Falling Star continent. They only existed in the super sections. She did not think that Jun Changshao could casually pick it up or buy it. The only possibility was that it had been passed down since ancient times. It seems that I have underestimated Iron Bone Clan and the sect leader. Lu Qianqian clenched her fist. Her beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. She gritted her teeth and said, with a divine-grade mental cultivation method, perhaps it can help me take revenge. The first and second disciples were focused on cultivating the I Ching Jing. The great sect master Jun was pacing back and forth in the bedroom. He was on the verge of collapse as he said, "I've been meditating for half an hour, but there's not even the slightest reaction. Is this a fake? The host's spiritual root aptitude is too poor." Even though the tendon metamorphosis scripture is easy to understand, it is still more difficult for you to cultivate than others. You mean, if I don't have the system, I'm nothing? The system was silent for a long time before it said, "The host's ability to understand is very special, but you can indeed say so." Ah! Jun Changshao hugged his head and roared, "Lu Qianqian attacked me, and the system attacked me as well. How am I supposed to live? No! No! I'm going to waste my energy on I Ching Jing. If 2 hours wasn't enough, then a day. If a day wasn't enough, then a year. If a year wasn't enough, then a lifetime." He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to cultivate it without external help. Jun Changxiao's temper flared up. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began meditating. He meditated for the whole night until dawn. He lay down on the bed and said tiredly, "I can finally revolve the big and small circulations." Being able to revolve the qi didn't mean that the cultivation would be successful. He then handed over the affairs of the sect to Li Qingyang and devoted himself to cultivation. Hard work pays off. 2 days later, Jun Changshao finally mastered the I Ching Jing. He could easily revolve the big and small circulations as long as he calmed his heart down, and achieved an endless cycle. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Heaven rewards the diligent. The reward is 10 contribution points. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Diligence makes up for stupidity. The reward is 10 contribution points. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Earn your own living. The reward is 10 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 50100. The contribution points increased by another 30 points. However, Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "It seems that the system doesn't want me to rely on it too much. That's why it left such a hidden task. It's just that. First, it's to get rid of evil for the people. Now, it's to reward the diligent and earn your own living." Could it be that the hidden task is related to the forward idiom? The I Ching Jing's effect was to refine the body, but it was also a mental cultivation technique. After Jun Changshao cultivated for another day, he realized that the speed at which he absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was much faster than the meditation art. As expected, a divine-grade mental cultivation technique is better. At this speed, even if I only have mortal-grade aptitude, I can condense enough spiritual energy to break through my meridians in a few days. Jun Changshao, who had tasted the sweetness, focused even more on cultivation. Even with his mortal-grade aptitude, he could achieve success through hard work. Naturally, other disciples with mortal-grade aptitude would also succeed. It was a little tragic for disciples with low aptitude. Because of a lower grade, they were separated by a mountain. They could only barely comprehend it after 7 or 8 days of hard work. 10 days later, all the disciples of the unyielding Iron Bones sect had gained a preliminary understanding of the I Ching Jing. During this period of time, Li Qingyang did not manage the sect on behalf of the sect. This was because the juniors were so immersed in cultivation that they sometimes did not eat for the entire day. "Junior brother, how's your comprehension these 2 days?" "Senior brother, it's all right. I've already condensed enough spiritual energy to break through my meridians." "Ha ha ha, I've also condensed enough. Our unique mental cultivation technique is really powerful. If it was in the past, I would need at least 2 to 3 months to condense enough spiritual energy to break through my meridians. Now, I only need 3 to 5 days." When the sect disciples were not cultivating, they would gather together to discuss the I Ching Jing. If they knew that mental cultivation techniques could increase the success rate of breaking through their meridians, they would definitely be excited. The next day, one after another, disciples began to attempt to break through their meridians. I succeeded just like that. A disciple at the fourth stage of the channel opening realm sat cross-legged on his bed. He could feel the spiritual energy flowing through his meridians. His expression gradually froze. His aptitude was only of the common grade and he had been stuck at the third stage of the channel opening realm for a year. During this time, he had failed many times. This time, when he had just started, he heard a pop sound and the blocked meridians were opened. The disciple swore to himself that he had not even used any strength and the thick and heavy wall of meridians had already collapsed. Ha ha ha. I've opened the third meridian, I've opened the third meridian. He laughed and shouted in ecstasy. His eyes were filled with tears. This kind of situation played out in the inner courtrooms one after another. Regardless of the aptitude of the disciples, as long as they relied on the I Ching Jing to condense spiritual energy to break through their meridians, there would be people who successfully broke through. The next day, Li Qingyang stood in the hall and reported from the second stage of the channel opening realm to the third stage, 9 people succeeded and 8 failed. From the third stage of the channel opening realm to the fourth stage, 5 people succeeded and 6 failed. From the fourth stage of the channel opening realm to the fifth stage, 1 person succeeded and 1 failed. After reporting, he took a deep breath. The shock in his heart was still difficult to calm down in a short period of time. Li Qingyang, who lived in a clan, knew that opening meridians was extremely difficult. For example, if 3 to 5 young clansmen succeeded in opening their meridians in a year, the entire clan would be happy. But now, just yesterday alone, 30 junior brothers had broken through their meridians. This number was extremely terrifying. Li Qingyang did not even dare to think about it. What was even more terrifying was that 15 out of the 30 disciples had successfully broken through their meridians. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "It's all right. It's all right." The corner of Li Qingyang's mouth twitched violently. He said, "Sect Master, 10 junior brothers successfully broke through their meridians on the same day. How shocking is that? Qingyang." Jun Changshao walked down and patted his shoulder. "This kind of thing will be very common in the future. As the second disciple, you have to learn to adapt." Looking at the departing figure of the sect master, Li Qingyang said in a daze, "This kind of thing will be very common in the future." Chapter 37. After returning to his residence, Jun Changshao danced with joy. With so many disciples successfully opening their meridians, it's only a matter of time before Iron Bone Upright Sect becomes strong. He wanted Li Qingyang to learn how to adapt, but he was the one who was so excited. Speaking of which, why was he so excited? Wasn't it because if the disciples were strong, the sect would be strong? If the sect was strong, they could follow the main quest until it was completed and the soul bomb could be removed. If not for the damned main quest and the bomb restriction, Jun Changshao would not be able to focus on developing Iron Bone Upright Sect. It would be better for him to go out and cultivate alone. If I cultivate for another night, I should be able to condense enough spirit energy to open my meridians. I hope I can break through to the 11th stage. He sat down cross-legged again and continued to cultivate. 50 contribution points. Jun Changshao had no intention of exchanging them for goods. First, he did not need them. Second, he wanted to rely on himself to open his meridians. More importantly, his intuition told him that if he relied on himself to open a meridian, he might be able to complete the hidden quest and obtain a certain amount of contribution points. A night of cultivation. Jun Changshao condensed enough spirit energy and began to open his meridians. The next morning, he walked out of his room dejectedly. He took a deep breath and said, "Even with such a high success rate, I still failed. Am I going to leave Europe again? It's fine, it's fine. Your understanding of tendon-changing scripture is already quite good. Condensing spirit energy only took 2 or 3 days. You'll definitely succeed next time. Jun Changshao comforted him and entered the main hall. After a while, Li Qingyang walked over and said excitedly, "Sect leader, I've broken through to the 11th stage." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao said, "Not bad." He howled in his heart, "A high-spirit root is really enviable." Li Qingyang reported the statistics of the disciples opening their meridians yesterday. There were a total of 20 people. 12 of them succeeded and 8 failed. Perhaps it was because of the sect leader's words yesterday, but he was quite used to it. Jun Changshao said, "Tell the disciples who failed to open their meridians that a temporary failure does not mean they will fail forever. As long as they work hard, they will definitely succeed." Why did these words sound more like he was comforting himself? A few days later, the disciples who cultivated tendon-changing scripture broke through a level from their original foundation, improving the entire sect. This is great. I never dreamed that opening a meridian would be so easy. Sect leader is a god to create such a cultivation method. The disciples who had successfully broken through the pulse opening stage were so excited that they had already prostrated themselves in worship of Jun Changshao. However, sect leader Jun was very depressed because his second attempt at breaking through his meridians had failed again. He sat dejectedly on his chair and said, "I failed twice in a row with a 50% success rate. It seems like I've used up all my luck in this lifetime to obtain a divine grade E Jin Jing." Although he had failed twice in a row, there were still benefits. Jun Changshao's meridians, muscles, and internal organs had all been thoroughly tempered, and his frail body was clearly much stronger than before. Of the two. Sect leader. Li Qingyang walked over and said, "I've contacted the craftsman. When do you want to rebuild the inner courtyard?" "Today." "Yes." After the inner courtyard was renovated, Jun Changshao stayed in the main hall. Dong, dong. Lu Qianqian walked over. Her white boots made rhythmic sounds on the floor. Because she cultivated tendon-changing scripture, her legs were even more slender and round. She was an extremely beautiful woman. Her figure and appearance were impeccable. She was like a nephrite that was carefully carved. If she was in Jun Changshao's previous world, she would definitely beat all the supermodels and popular female celebrities. Jun Changshao propped up his chin and said in appreciation, "Captivating the birds and wild geese, outshining the moon and shaming the flowers." Lu Qianqian stopped and found that he was sizing her up. She frowned and said, "Do you men care about a woman's appearance?" "I do," Jun Changshao said honestly. As a man with the correct gender orientation, it was hypocritical to not care about a woman's appearance. Lu Qianqian was silent. She didn't expect that the sect leader wouldn't even try to hide it. "Qianqian," Jun Changshao said, "you and I are about the same age. Are you interested in dating?" Such a beautiful woman was definitely the best choice to be his girlfriend. Sect leader Jun also wanted to leave the ranks of single dogs as soon as possible. He wanted to spread dog food to the readers. Dating? What do you mean? It means dating. No, in the words of the falling star continent, our relationship can go further. You're talking about love? Yes, it means dating. Before he could finish the word love, Lu Qianqian's beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Jun Changshao shuddered and swallowed the last word he was about to say. Then, he said in all seriousness, "Speak, why have you come looking for this king?" Lu Qianqian restrained her killing intent and said indifferently, "Sect leader, you haven't broken through yet?" She touched the pot that didn't boil. Jun Changshao clutched his chest and said with a pained expression, "Qianqian, are you deliberately attacking this king?" Lu Qianqian said, "You are the sect leader and the leader of the Iron Bone clan. If your cultivation can't increase, how can you lead the disciples who are stronger than you?" "Don't worry," Jun Changshao said, "if I want to increase my cultivation, it's just a matter of seconds." He wasn't bragging. As long as he used his contribution points to exchange for cultivation points, even if he didn't break through to martial disciple, it would be easy for him to open the 12th stage of his meridians. Lu Qianqian was used to his shameless boasting and said, "If you can't do it, you can consider giving the position to me. I will let the Iron Bone clan dominate the Azure Sun County in a short period of time." He knew that this woman wanted to spy on the sect leader. Jun Changshao stood up and walked down. He stopped 1 meter in front of her and looked into her eyes. He smiled and said, "Dominate the Azure Sun County? That's a small goal. I want to dominate the entire Falling Star continent." Because of the distance, the fragrance wafted over and stirred his heart. "Tsk," Lu Qianqian snorted coldly. However, she deliberately turned her head and didn't look into his eyes. She said, "Do you think it's enough to develop the sect with just a divine mental cultivation technique? Otherwise? A strong sect needs a perfect cultivation system, excellent elders to teach, and various resources related to martial arts, such as martial techniques and pills. Does the sect leader have these?" "No," Jun Changshao said seriously, "but you will have them in the future." "I hope so." Lu Qianqian said, "I'll go and lead the disciples to cultivate first." Phew! After walking out of the hall, she let out a breath and gradually calmed down. She thought to herself, the sect leader's realm is obviously not as high as mine. Why do I feel nervous when I get close to him? It seems that my understanding of the Taishian Ice Heart technique is far from enough. I can't truly be as still as water. Chapter 38. Inside the main hall. Jun Changshao sat on a wooden chair and remained silent for a long time. Lu Qianqian's words made him realize that his cultivation was not good enough. The sect only had the Yi Jin Jing and nothing else. How could he make the Iron Bone clan stronger and dominate the continent? Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and opened the beginner's shop. As he flipped through the pages, he saw a type of medicinal pill called Qi Amassing Pill. Out of habit, he clicked on the detailed introduction. Item, Qi Gathering Pill. Effect, after a martial artist takes it, they can condense spiritual energy 5 times faster. Note, only available to the head of the sect. Duration, 24 hours. Price, 10 contribution points. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Increasing the concentration of spiritual energy by 5 times, this is a good thing for cultivation." With his mortal level aptitude, it would take him 2 days to absorb enough spiritual energy to open his meridians. If it was 5 times faster, the time needed would be greatly reduced. Buy! Jun Changshao bought without hesitation. Ding! The host has spent 10 contribution points. Qi Gathering Pill X1 has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 40100. Before the notification ended, Jun Changshao took out the bottle with the words, Qi Gathering Pill, written on it and poured out a red jujube-sized pill. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. The pill melted in his mouth and integrated into his body, making him feel refreshed. He could clearly feel that each of his pores had expanded infinitely. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged on a chair and began to operate the Yi Jin Jing. However, as soon as he completed a cycle, the spiritual energy in the hall swarmed over and fought to be absorbed. Yesterday you ignored me, today I will make you unworthy. Although he was arrogant, Jun Changshao began to absorb the spiritual energy crazily. In just over 8 hours, he had condensed enough spiritual energy to open his meridians. It used to take him 2 days, but now it took him less than 10 hours. The effect of the Qi Gathering Pill was really formidable. Open! Jun Changshao said. The result was a failure for the 3rd time. Again. After condensing for several more hours, he continued to break through his meridians. However, he failed again on his 4th attempt. Only on his 5th attempt did he successfully break through his 11th meridian. Jun Changshao was not in the mood to feel the increase in strength brought about by the meridian opening. He slumped on the chair and wiped the sweat from his forehead. A 50% success rate, and it took me 5 tries to succeed. How dark is my face? Jun Changshao had said that he would not use the system and would rely on his own efforts to open his meridians. In the end, with the help of the energy-gathering pill, he broke through to the 11th stage of the meridian opening realm. He had really persevered before, but, since the heavens had given him the system, and there were items that could help him quickly increase his cultivation base, there would definitely be a problem if he didn't use his brain. After comforting himself, Jun Changshao immediately felt refreshed. In fact, it was Lu Qianqian's words that urged him to use the items in the store. After all, he was not a rogue cultivator, but a sect leader. He did not have that much time to cultivate. He had to become stronger as soon as possible to lead the entire sect. As for hard work, it was necessary to have good moral character, but it also depended on the situation. Jun Changshao opened the beginner's store again. As expected, the energy-gathering pill had turned gray, and the words limited to 1 purchase per month appeared. He shook his head and said, "If I could buy it without limit, and absorb 5 times the spiritual energy every day to cultivate, even a pig could break through to the Martial Emperor realm." Martial Emperor, motherfucker, is this a humiliation? Speaking of which, Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "The note on the effect says that it can only be used by the sect leader. Does this mean that there are pills suitable for disciples?" He continued to browse the items in the store and soon found a rather interesting item called the Beginner Disciple Spirit Array. He clicked on the detailed introduction. Item, Beginner Disciple Spirit Array. Effect, when inserted into the ground, it can condense a 10 square meter spirit array. The attribute of the internal spiritual energy is twice that of the outside world. Duration, use immediately upon opening. Price, 10 contribution points. Note, only available to sect disciples. After activating the array, 1 contribution point will be consumed. Lasts for 24 hours. Seeing the content of the note, Jun Changshao said, 1 point can only be used for 1 day. This is too much of a waste of contribution points. 1 point for a day was not much, but he only had 40 contribution points. After buying it, if he used all of them to activate the array, it could only last for 30 days at most. Only available to disciples. It doesn't make sense to change it. Jun Changshao did not intend to exchange for the Beginner Disciple Spirit Array. The system prompted, when the disciples become stronger, the sect will become stronger. The host is recommended to purchase it at 5 stars. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, "You're not recommending me to buy it. You're recommending me to spend contribution points, right?" The system said, "The system's mission is to assist the host." "All right." Jun Changshao hesitated for a moment and said, "I'll trust you this time." Ding! The host has spent 10 contribution points and obtained the Beginner Disciple Spirit Array X1. It has been transferred to the Space Ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 30100. A bag with many small flags appeared out of thin air in the space ring. Inside, there was a manual for setting up the array. Jun Changshao was speechless and said, "Damn, why isn't there a warranty?" Sect Master. Just as he was about to take out the spirit array to study, a disciple hurriedly ran in and said while panting, There's someone here to cause trouble." "What?" Jun Changshao slapped the armrest and stood up angrily. "Who the hell has the guts to cause trouble in my Iron Bone clan? Beat him. Beat him hard." In front of the vermilion-painted Iron Bone clan's gate, a young master in embroidered clothes angrily said. Several subordinates of level 4 or level 5 meridian opening were punching and kicking a youth on the ground. The youth's clothes were tattered and his hair was disheveled. He looked like a beggar. "Damn it! A stinky beggar dares to steal our Chui family's pills. His guts are really fat." One of the servants cursed as he hit him. The young master in embroidered clothes said with a cold face, "Don't look at his weak cultivation. He runs pretty fast. If he didn't barge into this barren mountain and have nowhere to go, it would be really hard to catch him. Continue beating him. Beat him to death." The subordinates received the order and kicked him madly. Their strength was very strong. In just a short while, The youth was covered in bruises and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. "Stop!" At this moment, a loud and clear voice was heard. The servants who were punching and kicking stopped and turned their heads to look. They saw Jun Changshao leading a group of disciples out of the gate. Eh! The young master in embroidered clothes looked at the plaque on the gate and said with a smile, "So this nameless barren mountain is Iron Bone Clan's mountain." His smile and tone were full of disdain. Jun Changshao glanced at him and then glanced at the youth who was being beaten madly by the crowd. He said calmly, "This is Iron Bone Clan's territory. If you want to fight, then get out and fight." So it wasn't that someone came to cause trouble in the sect, but that someone was fighting at the gate. It was a group of people beating one person. The young master in embroidered clothes was stunned. "You want me to get out?" He looked at the servant and grinned. "This little Iron Bone Clan dares to ask me to get out? Are you crazy? Are you stupid?" Bang! A leg kicked over and landed directly on his face. His muscles instantly caved in and his entire body was lifted off the ground. He flew out gorgeously with a crooked mouth and slanted eyes. Plop! The young master in embroidered clothes flew more than 10 meters and fell in front of the stone steps that led down the mountain. If he went any closer, he would have rolled down the mountain. Damn it! Jun Changshao retracted his leg and said, "You talk too much." Chapter 39. The great sect master Jun's kick had been very sudden and fast. The young master Huali fell to the ground, and the group of servants slowly regained their senses. "Young master!" They ran over in panic and helped their master up. Seeing the big footprint on the right side of his face, they knew that the kick was not light. The young master covered his face and said in disbelief, You dare to hit me. Boy, you're in big trouble. My master is the third young master of the AI family. Hitting him is equivalent to hitting the AI family. Your Iron Bones sect, wait for your sect to be destroyed." A few of his subordinates shouted angrily. However, they quickly shut their mouths because the Iron Bone disciples came out of the gate and stood behind Jun Changshao, glaring at him. The so-called third young master of the AI family only had a few subordinates. Facing Jun Imosie's 100 disciples, he immediately admitted defeat. It had to be said that having a group of disciples was very good. At least in this kind of situation, he didn't need to make a move himself. You can't compare strength. You can compare numbers. You can't compare. AI family. Jun Changshao crossed his arms and laughed. Is it very powerful? You dare to destroy my Iron Bone clan? Li Qingyang leaned over and whispered, "Sect leader, the AI family is a famous clan in Huyang City." Huyang City? Jun Changshao had heard of it before. It was one of the 8 major cities in Qingyang County. Its status was second only to Qingyang City. It had a large population and many clans and sections. Li Qingyang said, "The AI family has been in the pill business for generations in Huyang City. They are a supplier of pills to many sections. They have strong financial resources and a wide range of connections. They are much stronger than my family." "So you're selling pills?" Jun Changshao rubbed his nose. Li Qingyang said, "This person is called Aij. He is the third son of the AI family. He relies on his family to commit all kinds of outrages in the city. He is a famous playboy in Qingyang County." Aij? Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "The name sounds like it's used to get beaten up." Li Qingyang was speechless. He had said so much to the sect leader, but the main point was not whether he would be beaten up or not. It was because this kid's family was not simple and was not to be trifled with. Ai Tua endured the burning pain on his face and said angrily, "Kid, hurry up and call the Iron Bone sect leader out. Ask him to apologize to me immediately." Jun Changshao said, "No need to shout, the sect leader is right here." As he spoke, he swung his sleeves confidently and stood with his hands behind his back, puffing out his chest. Very stylish, very stylish. "Here." AI Tong was stunned. He looked at Li Qingyang and said angrily, "So you are the sect master. Quickly apologize to me." The corner of Li Qingyang's mouth twitched, and he quickly took 2 steps back. He glanced at Jun Changshao and used his gaze to tell him that this was the sect leader of Iron Bone Righteous Sect. "Am I not?" Seeing him retreat, AI Tong realized that he had guessed wrongly. He glanced at the disciples behind him and could not confirm who was the sect leader. He shouted angrily, "Sect leader Iron Bone, do you think I will let you go just because you are hiding in the dark?" Li Qingyang, all the disciples, they all thought, "Is this guy an idiot?" Jun Changshao, who had already put on the look of a sect leader, changed his expression again and again. In the end, he could not help but scold, "Are you a fucking idiot? I am standing in front of you and almost poking your eyes blind. Can't you tell?" Thud! Thud! As he spoke, he walked over angrily. A few servants hurriedly stood in front of the young master. One of them raised his fists and got into position. He stammered, "I warn you, don't, get lost." Jun Changshao kicked the servant with the big tongue out and stopped in front of AI Tong. He grabbed the servant's collar and pulled him over. With a cold gaze, he said, "Listen carefully, kid. I am the sect leader of Iron Bone Clan." His voice was low and murderous. AI Tong was so frightened that his scalp went numb. He did not dare to sweat. The few AI family servants who were supporting him by the side were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. Jun Changshao had killed many mountain bandits. Once he was enraged, the murderous look in his eyes and aura was very scary. How could a hedonistic disciple like AI Tong take it? "Did you hear that?" Jun Changshao roared angrily. His voice was very loud, and Li Qingyang and the other disciples behind him were caught off guard. The sudden sound of these 3 words was like a clap of thunder in AI Shua's ears. He was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder were about to burst. His face gradually twisted, and his mouth slowly opened. He was about to cry as he said, I heard it." Jun Changshao pointed at the stairs below and said coldly, "Get lost." Swoosh! Swoosh! The few AI family servants seemed to have opened up their conception and governor vessels in an instant. They carried AI Tong and disappeared at the fastest speed. They did not even leave behind a harsh word. Jun Changshao's murderous look had not dissipated. He turned around. The disciples looked at him. Their hair stood on end and they took a step back. Sect leader, Li Qingyang asked weakly, "Are you okay?" Jun Changshao walked over. His murderous look slowly dissipated. He placed one hand on AI Tong's shoulder and rested his head on the back of his hand. He said with a sobbing tone, "Am I so unlike a sect leader?" Li Qingyang expressed his sympathy. The disciples expressed that they could understand the sect leader's sadness. "Don't cry." Lu Qianqian leaned against the tree and glanced at the young man lying on the ground. She said lightly, "This person was badly beaten. If he is not treated quickly, he will die at any time." Iron Bone Sect, Medical Pavilion. There was no medical equipment or medicine inside. There was only a simple bed. Even the medical pavilion was built by Jun Changshao after he carried the injured young man over. A sect must not only have an outer courtyard and an inner courtyard. Naturally, it must also have a medical pavilion, Wu-Tang training pavilion, martial skills pavilion, and so on. Don't rush, don't rush. You have to take one step at a time. Things have to be done one by one. If you take too big a step, you will easily pull your balls. Sect leader. After a round of examination, Li Qingyang said, 8 of his ribs are broken. He also has serious internal injuries. His situation is very bad. He needs to be treated immediately. Jun Changshao said, "Can we go to the town and get a doctor in time?" Li Qingyang shook his head and said, "His injuries are too serious. It will be difficult for a normal doctor to treat him, unless... Unless what? Unless we use the pills passed down from ancient times in our sect. He will be safe. This person's injuries were not as serious as his. Li Qingyang was sure that if the sect leader took out a healing pill, it would definitely be easy to treat him. This, Jun Changshao muttered to himself. Lu Qianqian leaned her back against the door and said calmly, "Do you think that kind of elixir that can heal injuries in an instant is like candy?" "That's true." Li Qingyang looked at the young man whose face was covered in dirt and shook his head. He said, "Sect leader, he can hold on for 4 hours at most." Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "I do have a ready-made healing pill right now. Do you think we should use it to save him or not?" "Save him? No." Chapter 40. Li Qingyang said to save him, but Lu Qianqian said not to. The two of them had different personalities, so their thoughts were definitely different. "Senior sister," Li Qingyang said seriously, "saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda." Jun Changshao was speechless. He had said the same thing when he saved him, but that woman looked at him as if he was an idiot. "Tisk," Lu Qianqian said lightly, "many people die in the falling star continent every day, can you save them all?" Li Qingyang was silent. Lu Qianqian continued, "We are a sect, not a clinic that saves the dying and helps the injured. The sect leader doesn't have many such pills. Instead of using it on an outsider who has nothing to do with us, we might as well keep it for ourselves." Li Qingyang was even more speechless. Jun Changshao patted him on the shoulder and said, "Qingyang, you have a kind heart, which is commendable. But sometimes, reality is cruel." "Sect master, Li Qingyang wanted to say something, but stopped. Jun Changshao said, "I didn't know that the pills passed down from ancient times would be so effective, so I gave them to you. Now that I know the effects, I naturally understand the preciousness of the pills, so I will be extra careful when using them. I won't casually use them to save strangers." Lu Qianqian said lightly, "You're finally enlightened." Li Qingyang said bitterly, "Sect master, are you regretting giving me that healing pill?" Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Because I saved you, you were able to join the Iron Bones sect and become the second disciple. If I didn't save you at that time, it would be too late for me to regret it." Li Qingyang heard this and felt much better. Walking to the unconscious teenager, Jun Changshao murmured, "A healing pill allowed me to take in a talented disciple. I hope there will be unexpected gains this time." Lu Qianqian was stunned. "You want to save him? A disciple died earlier. Saving him will make up for the vacancy," Jun Changshao said. Lu Qianqian did not say anything. Although they hadn't known each other for long, she knew that the sect leader's decision wouldn't change. Ding! The host has spent 1 contribution point and received a beginner healing pill X1. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 29100. It had already been a month and a few days since he had rescued Li Qingyang. If not for the mention of medicinal pills, Jun Changshao would have forgotten to exchange for them. 1 contribution point to exchange for a healing pill that could heal injuries quickly. As long as there was no time limit, he would definitely buy it without hesitation. Jun Changshao took out a healing pill and threw it into the mouth of the injured youth. Lu Qianqian said coldly, "Sect leader, do you really think that a genius like second junior brother can be casually saved? Maybe he's lucky." Jun Changshao shrugged. Lu Qianqian rolled her eyes at him. If he's talented, how could he be bullied like this by a few second or third stage meridian opening trash? Yes. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "Why didn't I think of that?" Cough, cough. At this moment, the youth woke up from his coma after being healed by the medicinal pill. When he opened his eyes, he said in shock, I'm still alive?" "Yes, you're still alive," Jun Changshao said. The youth got up from the bed and brushed his messy hair. When he saw the appearance of the person in front of him, he immediately cupped his hands and said, "Sect leader Jun, please let me join the Iron Bone Upright sect." Jun Changshao said, "You know me?" The youth said, "A month ago, I met Sect leader June at the 100 Sects recruitment. This time, I also hope to join the Iron Bone Upright Sect and learn martial arts from the Sect leader. I see. June Changshao said, what's your name? Where do you live? The youth paused and mustered his courage to say, my name is Xiao Ziji. I'm a direct descendant of the Xiao family in Liang City. Li Qingyang said in shock, you're Xiao Ziji. June Changshao said, you know him. Li Qingyang said solemnly, he's a rare genius with a supreme-grade spirit root. Who in the entire Qingyang County doesn't know him? Who doesn't know him? Supreme-grade spirit root? June Changshao's eyes widened. Even Lu Qianshan, who was beside her, looked at her in surprise. This youth with tattered clothes and looked like a beggar had a supreme-grade spirit root aptitude higher than second junior brothers? Huh. June Changshao laughed out loud and said, Qianshan, I made the right bet again. With a healing pill, he obtained Li Qingyang with a high-grade aptitude. Now, he obtained a supreme-grade aptitude genius with a healing pill. What did this mean? It meant that doing good things would be rewarded. From today onwards. June Changshao suppressed his joy and announced, you're the 99th disciple of my Iron Bone clan. Xiao Ziji cupped his hands excitedly and said, Disciple Xiao Ziji greets the sect master. N. June Changshao nodded and said, Qingyang, go and get the entry form. Yes. Li Qingyang nodded in response. But after a little hesitation, he whispered, Sect master, this disciple needs to make it clear. This person was once a rare genius, but for some reason, his spirit root degenerated to a low-grade spirit root. His 12 main meridians were sewn up again, and his cultivation is gone. June Changshao's facial muscles froze. You only need to make it clear now for such an important matter. Isn't it too late to go to my uncle's house? Sect Master June immediately regretted it. But the words spoken are like spit. Can you lick them back after spitting them out? Li Qingyang said, because his spirit root degenerated, his fiancée brought people to the Xiao clan to break off the engagement. She severely humiliated him. Later, the Xiao clan felt that it was shameful and expelled him from the clan. June Changshao's mouth twitched. A genius degenerated into a waste, and his fiancée came to break off the engagement? Isn't this the beginning of a standard novel? Isn't this a natural protagonist? I didn't expect to meet him, and even accept him as a disciple. Li Qingyang's voice was soft, but Xiao Ziji still heard it. He slowly lowered his head, the corners of his mouth raised in a self-deprecating smile. He clenched his fists, his nails piercing into his palms, causing bursts of pain. June Changshao caught this action and said, Go and get the entry form. Yes. Li Qingyang retreated. Lu Qianshan crossed her arms and said indifferently, Sect master, this kind of waste. June Changshao's face became solemn. She immediately shut her mouth. Sect master. Xiao Ziji said, Are you willing to accept a waste? I'm not willing. June Changshao said truthfully. Xiao Ziji said dejectedly, I also know that I'm not worthy to be a disciple of the Iron Bone clan. Sect Master June, sorry for disturbing you. He walked out of the medical pavilion with his shoulders and head lowered. Li Qingyang ran over with the entry form. Seeing Xiao Ziji dejectedly leaving, he asked puzzledly, Senior Martial Sister, what happened to him? Lu Qianshan said indifferently, he felt that he was a waste and didn't have the qualifications to join the sect, so he left on his own. Looking at the dispirited back, Li Qingyang comforted him, Young Master Xiao, you were once a rare genius. As long as you stay in the Iron Bone clan, under the guidance of the sect master, you will definitely regain everything you lost. Chapter 41. A once-in-a-thousand-years genius? The disciples who were cultivating in the training field looked over and whispered, Is he Xiao Ziji from Liang City Xiao family? The super genius who had a supreme-grade spirit root at the age of 10 and opened 12 meridians at the age of 12? He was just glorious in the past. 5 years ago, his spirit root and cultivation level regressed. In the end, he became an ordinary person. Even his fiancée came to the family to break off the engagement. The Xiao family chased him out. There was no news of him since then. I didn't expect him to become a beggar. The disciples all shook their heads regretfully. At that time, Xiao Ziji was a famous person in Qingyang County. Even Li Qingyang could not compare to him. But now, a super genius had become a good-for-nothing and became like this. It really made people sigh. Xiao Ziji, who was walking out step by step, heard the crowd's discussion. He said dejectedly, "I'm just a good-for-nothing now. How can I get back everything I lost?" Li Qingyang still wanted to say something. "Qingyang." Jun Changshao walked out and leaned against Lu Qianqian's position. He even looks down on himself. It's useless for him to stay in Iron Bone Sect. There's no need to comfort him. Li Qingyang was silent. Xiao Ziji continued walking. His back was dispirited and depressed. Ta! He stopped on the stone steps and said without turning around, "Sect Master Jun, thank you for saving me. Xiao Ziji will remember this great kindness." Jun Changshao said indifferently, "If I knew that the person I saved looked down on himself, I definitely wouldn't have saved him. I would have even stabbed him and let him die quickly." Li Qingyang, Lu Qianqian flipped her black hair and said, "Sect Master's words are quite hurtful." Xiao Ziji said expressionlessly, "Yes, I shouldn't be alive." Jun Changshao pointed outside and said indifferently, "Go out and turn left. There's a cliff. If you want to die, you can jump down. Maybe you'll have a fortuitous encounter and reach the peak of life." Everyone's mouth twitched. When did the sect leader become as sharp-tongued as eldest senior sister? Xiao Ziji smiled bitterly and said, "From the moment I fell from genius to trash, I was destined to not have any more fortuitous encounters or opportunities. Fortuitous encounters are for those who are prepared. For a guy like you who gives up on himself, even if a pie falls from the sky, it won't fall on your head." Jun Changshao said indifferently, "Before you leave, I'll give you a word of advice. There are no innately strong people in this world, only innately strong people. No matter if you're a genius or a piece of trash, if you don't have the heart to be strong, you're just a piece of trash. There was no such thing as being born strong, only being born strong." Xiao Ziji's body shook slightly, and his gloomy eyes gradually lit up. Jun Changshao crossed his arms in front of his chest and said calmly, "If you have already forgotten why you came to the Iron Bone clan, then get out of here." Xiao Ziji remained where he was and did not leave. Previously at the 100 Sects recruitment, he saw the scene of Jun Changshao giving pointers to the martial artists of various sects at the martial arts practice field, and his gloomy willpower was stimulated. After a period of struggle, he decided to go to the Iron Bone clan, hoping to become their disciple and recultivate martial arts. For this, he did not hesitate to go to Huyang City to steal the AI clan's pills. What pills? Pills that can temporarily increase cultivation. Xiao Ziji knew that joining the Iron Bone clan had conditions and restrictions. With his low aptitude and no cultivation, he would definitely be rejected. Stealing the pills ended in failure. He panicked and fled to this place, but was still caught by the AI clan, and inevitably suffered a beating. What was all this for? Everything was for the sake of becoming stronger. Jun Changshao said, "Your fiancé broke off the engagement, can you bear it?" Xiao Ziji clenched his fists and bit his lips. Jun Changshao said, "Don't you want to become strong again to tell that short-sighted woman, to tell the whole world, 30 years east, 30 years west, don't bully the young for being poor? Don't bully the young for being poor." Xiao Ziji's expression was sluggish. His heart felt as if it was stabbed by a sharp knife, piercing through that disheartened heart. His tightly clenched fists gradually loosened, and scarlet blood dripped down from his fingers onto the stone floor. "Stop talking. If you want to get lost, then get lost quickly," Jun Changshao said indifferently. Plop! Xiao Ziji suddenly turned around and knelt heavily on the ground. His cheeks were filled with tears, and he cried out loudly, "Sect leader Jun, I want to join the Iron Bone clan, I want to become stronger, I want to get back everything I lost. At that moment, all the pain he suffered and his desire to become stronger were released in his cries. Li Qingyang, Lu Qianqian, and even all the disciples present were looking at Xiao Ziji. No one laughed at the 7-feet-tall man's cries. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest, you have received 5 Sect contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 34100. Phew! Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself, I finally let this guy regain his confidence. It turned out that when Xiao Ziji walked out of the medical pavilion, the system issued a side quest. The content was let the fallen genius Xiao Ziji regain his confidence in martial arts. Qingyang. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, go through the entry procedures. Remember, ask him to clean up the bloodstains in the outer courtyard. Yes. Li Qingyang hurried over. He was full of admiration for the sect leader's words just now. Jun Changshao looked at the disciples in the martial arts practice field and said in a deep voice, remember this in your hearts. There is no such thing as a genius or a trash in this world, and there is no such thing as being born strong. There is only being born strong. Yes. All the disciples shouted in unison. Especially when they thought of what the sect leader said just now, life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully the young for being poor. The blood in their bodies seemed to be burning. Gulp, gulp. In the main hall, Jun Changshao picked up the teapot and drank. Then, he lay back on the chair and said, to let an extremely depressed guy regain his confidence in martial arts, I really fucking admire my eloquence. The system said at an inappropriate time, the aptitude of the sect's disciples is generally not high. Now that we have accepted a trash, it will only drag down the sect's development. Jun Changshao rested his chin on the back of his hand and said with a smile, don't you think that nurturing them into powerhouses is a very fulfilling thing? The system was silent. Jun Changshao had helped Xiao Ziji regain his confidence in martial arts because of the side quest. As for accepting him into the sect, it was more out of sympathy. After all, a former genius had become a trash, broken off his engagement, and expelled from his family. It was really too pitiful. Sect leader. Li Qingyang walked over and handed over the entry form. Junior brother Zhao's entry form has been filled out. Jun Changshao glanced at it casually and took out the sect leader's seal and stamped it. Ding! Sect members, 100100. No contribution points. Members have already reached the upper limit. Due to death and expulsion, they will be replaced. There will not be a second contribution points. Alright. Jun Changshao shook his head. Ding! The system has checked that the number of members is full and all disciples are in the sect. Sect mission activated. Hearing the notification, Jun Changshao almost vomited blood. No wonder there were no sect missions. It was because the sect members were dissatisfied and they were not in the sect. Schwa! He hurriedly opened the strongest sect system's data panel and saw the sect mission's content. Sect mission, click to view details. Jun Changshao's mind moved and clicked on the details. Immediately, a small data panel appeared with many missions listed on it. The content was help Aunt Wang of Qingyang Village clean the courtyard, recommendation index, help Qingyang Village's Aunt Sun remove manure and water the vegetables. Help the villagers of Qingyang Village write letters, recommendation index, help Xiao Dan of Qingyang Village find the lost Xiao Huang, recommendation index, help the villagers of Qingyang Village get rid of the earth flame wolves that are causing trouble in the village. There were many more missions, roughly 40 to 50. Jun Changshao only looked at the first few lines and collapsed on the chair. His mouth twitched. What kind of bullshit sect missions are these? Chapter 42. After seeing the mission, Jun Changshao was speechless. Helping the villagers of Qingyang Village clean the courtyard, pick up manure, serve vegetables, write letters. Can't the sect be more serious? Can't it be more technical? The system said, if the host feels that the mission is not difficult, you can pull down the mission list and change to a new one. Should I spend contribution points? 10 points. Then forget it. Jun Changshao looked at the missions again and touched his chin. It's just sweeping the floor and picking up manure. It's not difficult at all. But, there are so many missions. It will take a lot of time for me to do them alone. The system reminded him, the sect missions are done by the sect disciples. The host wants to do the main mission, side mission, hidden mission, and epic mission. I see. He had his own mission, and the disciples had their own mission. The system was quite clear about the division of labor. Jun Changshao said, the recommendation index at the back is 1 or 2 stars. Does it mean that the reward will be very generous after the mission is completed? That's right. The system added, the higher the recommendation stars, the more difficult it is to complete the mission. Understood. Jun Changshao slapped the armrest and stood up. He stretched and said, Qingyang, tell the disciples to gather at the training field. I have a mission to assign. Yes. Li Qingyang received the order, but he was puzzled. Mission? On the training field. All the disciples were lined up neatly. Xiao Ziji was also there. Not only did he take a shower, but he also changed into the Iron Bone clan's iconic uniform. This former super genius had long hair that was not tied up and was slightly fluttering behind his back. His facial features were as clear as a sculpture. He could be considered a talent. However, after 5 years of experiencing the coldness and warmth of the world, there was a touch of indifference and laziness in his eyes. He did not fit in with the disciples around him. Jun Changshao knew that his previous words only temporarily restored his confidence in martial arts. It would take some time for him to completely pull himself together. Sect Master. Li Qingyang said, the disciples are all here. Cough, cough. Jun Changshao stood at the entrance of the main hall with his hands behind his back. He said, you have joined the Iron Bone clan for some time. I provided you with food, shelter, and mental cultivation methods. Are you satisfied? Satisfied. All the disciples said in unison. Not only were they satisfied with food and drinks, but they also had a powerful mental cultivation technique. Jun Changshao's expression suddenly turned serious. But, I can't keep raising you all, can I? The disciples were stunned and looked at each other in dismay. Lu Qianqian said lightly, Sect leader, if you have something to say, just say it. This woman was still the same. Jun Changshao said, since you've become a member of the Iron Bone clan, you have to do your best for the construction of the clan. We are willing to sacrifice our lives for the sect. The disciples shouted in unison. Jun Changshao nodded and said, recently, the villagers of Qingyang village have met with some trouble. I have decided to send you all to help them, to show the might of my Iron Bone clan. Yes. The disciples shouted in unison. Qingyang. Jun Changshao said, most of the villagers in Qingyang village are illiterate. You can help them write letters. Ah. Li Qingyang was dumbfounded. He was from a prestigious family, so he definitely knew how to read and write. But the task that the sect leader mentioned just now was for him to write letters to the villagers? You don't want to? Of course. Li Qingyang said hurriedly. Ding. Accept the sect mission. Mission introduction, Scholar Zhao of Qingyang village is suffering from typhoid fever. The villagers need someone to replace him. Write letters for 3 days, incomplete. Accepted disciple, Li Qingyang. Mission reward, after completion, the host will receive 1 achievement point and 1 contribution point. There's a reward of contribution points. Jun Changshao was delighted. He said, Qingyang, Scholar Zhao of Qingyang village is suffering from typhoid fever. You can write letters for the villagers for 3 days on his behalf. 3 days? Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. Qian. Jun Changshao said, Aunt Wang of Qingyang village is good to me. You can help her clean the courtyard and do some housework. Li Qingyang suddenly felt much more relaxed. Compared to senior sister's cleaning and housework task, he might as well write letters himself. I don't know. Lu Qianqian said with a cold face. Jun Chang said, if you don't know, then learn. Can I not go? You must go. This is your task, and also my order. Okay. Lu Qianqian compromised. Ding. Accept the sect mission. Mission introduction. Aunt Wang of Qingyang village needs someone to clean the courtyard and do the housework. 5 days, incomplete. Accepted disciple, Lu Qianqian. Mission reward, after completion, the host will receive 1 achievement point and 1 contribution point. Jun Changshao said, help Aunt Wang with the housework for 5 days. 5 days? Lu Qianqian frowned. Jun Changshao glanced at the disciples below the stage, and his gaze fell on Xiao Ziji. He said, Zui Ji, Aunt son of Qingyang village can't walk. You can help her pick feces and water the vegetables. The disciples, okay. Xiao Ziji responded. When the system sent the mission notification, Jun Changshao said, help Aunt son pick feces for 5 days first. Treat it as training. The disciples were speechless again. There were many ways to train the body, such as carrying water and firewood. Picking feces was a bit strange. Any disciple with a little background couldn't do the job of picking feces because it was dirty and smelly. However, Xiao Ziji didn't care and said, Sect Master, I understand. Su Xiaoma. Jun Changshao said, go and help Little Egg of Qingyang village find the lost little yellow. Su Xiaoma was the 3rd disciple after Li Qingyang. Although he was skinny and not tall, he was smart and agile. He was definitely the most suitable person to go find things. Yes. Su Xiaoma obeyed. After receiving the system's notification, Jun Changshao added, Little Yellow is a dog. It has been missing for 2 days. If you can't find it in the village, you can go to the mountains. Yes. Sect Master Jun continued to assign missions to the other disciples. Strangely enough, the missions on the interface were all in Qingyang village. There was only 1 mission with 3 stars, and the others were only 1 or 2 stars. Not long after, Jun Changshao assigned 20 missions. Only the missions with the recommendation index of 3 stars were left behind. Killing the Earth Flame Wolf should be a bit difficult. He planned to do the simple missions first, and then let the disciples do this. Clap. Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, the disciples who have accepted the missions can set off. The disciples who haven't accepted the missions can continue to cultivate in the sect. Yes. The disciples replied in unison. Sinful self, come to the main hall. When the disciples left, Jun Changshao called out to Xiao Ziji. The 2 entered the main hall one after the other. Do you have any objections to the missions I assigned? Jun Changshao sat on the wooden chair and asked. Xiao Ziji replied, no objections. Jun Changshao rested his chin on his hand and said, although the work is a bit dirty, you must remember that when the heavens give a great responsibility to a great man, it must first make his mind suffer and his muscles and bones tired. This disciple will remember. Xiao Ziji said. Jun Changshao threw the Yi Jing Jing to him and said, this is our sect's divine grade mental cultivation technique. Take it and cultivate. If there is anything you don't understand, you can ask me or the other senior brothers. Divine grade mental cultivation technique? Xiao Ziji caught the secret manual. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Remember, this is our sect's unique mental cultivation technique. You must not leak it to others. This disciple understands. Go to Qingyang village and help Auntie Sun carry feces. Yes. When Xiao Ziji walked out of the main hall and saw the 3 words Yi Jing Jing written on the secret manual, he couldn't remain calm and said, is this really a divine grade mental cultivation technique? Chapter 43. Li Qingyang, Lu Qianqian, and the other disciples went to Qingyang village after receiving the sect's mission. They began to look for targets to complete the mission. Iron Bone Clan's disciples. Dog. Jun Changshao, that brat, when did he take in so many disciples? Under the big banyan tree, a young man who looks like a young lady said that he was ordered by the sect leader to write a letter for us on behalf of Scholar Zhao. The villagers of Qingyang village gathered at the entrance of the village and discussed. Li Qingyang, who was sitting under the big tree, felt hurt when he heard them describe him as a young lady. In fact, he was quite handsome and masculine. The reason why he was called a young lady was because of his bright sect uniform. Soon, a white-haired old woman with a walking stick walked over slowly. Li Qingyang said, "Granny, do you want to write a letter?" The old woman tilted her ear and said, "Kid, what did you just say?" "I said, are you here to write a letter?" Li Qingyang raised his voice. The old woman still did not hear him clearly. She shook her skinny hand and pointed at her ear. "I'm old, my ears are hard of hearing. I can't hear clearly." Li Qingyang had no choice but to write "Are you here to write a letter?" on a piece of paper. Coincidentally, Xiao Ziji, who was carrying 2 buckets of dung, walked over from a small path. When he saw second senior brother holding a piece of paper for the old woman to read, he almost fell to the ground. Li Qingyang heard the noise and looked over. "Junior brother, what's wrong?" Xiao Ziji forced himself to steady himself so that the 2 buckets of dung would not fall. He broke down and said, "Senior brother, do you think she can read?" Li Qingyang slapped his forehead and said, "I forgot, most of the villagers in Qingyang village are illiterate. Even if I write, they won't understand." He channeled his dantian and shouted, "Are you here to write a letter?" The old woman heard him this time, but she knocked her walking stick and said, "Kid, can't you lower your voice? My ears are going deaf." Plop. Li Qingyang collapsed on the table. In a courtyard full of fallen leaves, Lu Qianqian, who was dressed in white, stood gracefully like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Her soft little hands were filled with faint spiritual power. Shwa! She raised her wrist gently. However, the bamboo broom in his hand was unable to withstand the force and shattered. Lu Qianqian frowned. "Why is it broken again?" Looking around, there were already 3 broken brooms under their feet. They had died miserably. Miss! Miss! Auntie Wang, who was hiding in the distance and using a bamboo basket to protect herself, said in fear and trepidation, Are you here to sweep the floor or to kill people?" Humph! Lu Qianqian threw the broken broom to the ground and said angrily, "I already said I don't know how to do it, but sect leader still let me do it." Sect leader? Auntie Wang thought of Jun Changshao. He cursed in his heart, "Bastard, what do you mean by this?" Hoo! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. Auntie Wang hurriedly raised the bamboo basket, but still glanced at it. She saw the fairy-like beautiful girl waving her hands in the air, stirring up the leaves on the ground and gathering them together. "It's much better than a broom." Lu Qianqian cast a cold gaze and said, "Hey, where do you throw this trash?" "Outside." "Outside." Auntie Wang hurriedly pointed outside the courtyard. Shwa! Lu Qianqian's feet moved, as if she was dancing. Her tender white jade-like hands moved in the air, and the gathered leaves flew out of the wall. Plop! Su Xiaoma, who was looking for Little Yellow in the village, happened to pass by and was directly hit on the head by a large number of leaves and branches, making him look extremely miserable. Puha! The disciples who were doing their mission saw their senior brother covered in leaves and couldn't help but laugh. Move! At this moment, Xiao Ziji, who was carrying feces, rushed down the slope. Because he couldn't control the carrying pole, the 2 buckets of feces swayed left and right, splashing a lot of feces on their faces. Huh! Su Xiaoma laughed out loud when she saw her 2 juniors' faces covered in chicken dung. After reaching the flat slope, Xiao Ziji finally stabilized the 2 buckets of feces. He turned around awkwardly and said, "Senior brother, sorry, huff." The two disciples with feces on their faces approached with red eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Ziji hurriedly picked up the carrying pole and ran away. Don't let him run away. The two disciples quickly chased after him. Without caring about the feces, they directly reached into the buckets and smeared it on his face. Then, they grinned and said, "We're even now." Ha ha ha. Su Xiaoma laughed until tears almost came out of his eyes. Bang! Another pile of leaves flew out of the wall and hit his head. He immediately rolled his eyes and fell down. There weren't many people in Qingyang village, only a few hundred. Most of the strong men went out to work and the old, weak, women and children stayed behind. Usually, it was a bit boring. After the disciples of the Iron Bones sect arrived, they went from house to do tasks, and it became lively. Gradually, the villagers understood that Go Sheng sent the disciples to do voluntary work for them, and they happily accepted it. "Mr. Li, I want to write a letter." Under the banyan tree, an old man in his 70s smiled and said, "Give it to Hua in town. Tell him to put more effort into studying and not play all the time." Li Qingyang picked up the brush and started writing. In a few hours, he had already written letters for 5 villagers. Some were for his son, and some were for his relatives who were not from the village. Most of the content was about daily life. Although it was simple, it was honest. After finishing a letter, Li Qingyang said thoughtfully, "I understand now. The leader wants me to listen to their inner hearts and understand something from it." Clap clap. In the courtyard, Lu Qianqian clapped her hands and said, "It's almost done." There was not a single leaf or dust on the ground. It was much cleaner than using a bamboo broom. Aunt Wang was paralyzed in front of the door of the central room. She wanted to cry but had no tears. The courtyard was clean and dust-free, but the few big trees that were planted were now completely bare. Even the branches had been torn off, leaving only the trunks. This was not the main point. The main point was, all the vegetables in the courtyard were uprooted and thrown out. "Do you still need to clean the room?" Swoosh! Aunt Wang jumped up and guarded the door. "Miss, I'll clean the room myself. I don't need to trouble you." "No." Lu Qianqian said, "The leader said to help you with the housework." She waved her hand and pulled her out. She walked into the central room. Immediately, the sound of teacups and iron basins colliding could be heard. "Ah!" Aunt Wang held her head and cursed at the sky, "Bastard, you sent people to torture me on purpose, didn't you?" Dusk came. The hall was filled with the smell of chicken manure. Jun Changshao pinched his nose and said, "Go take a bath." Swoosh! Swoosh! Xiao Ziji and the others disappeared in an instant. Li Qingyang said, "Leader, the junior brothers have completed the mission today." Jun Changshao was stunned. "Why is your voice hoarse?" Li Qingyang almost cried when he heard that. The clients are all old uncles and aunties. None of them can hear well. Sigh. Jun Changshao patted him on the shoulder and said, "You've worked hard." He glanced at the disciples and said, "Where's Qianqian? Why didn't she come back with you?" Boom! Boom! Suddenly, the ground shook. Jun Changshao looked up and saw the dust falling from the roof beam. Earthquake? Brat, get out here! Suddenly, a loud roar came from outside the hall. Aunt Wang! Jun Changshao hurried out, but he suddenly stepped back. He was so scared that he put one hand on the edge of the door. On the training field, Aunt Wang held a kitchen knife in one hand and a rolling pin in the other. She was full of killing intent. Every step she took shook the ground. "Leader." Lu Qianqian stood at the corner of the door and said calmly, "She insisted on thanking you. I couldn't stop her." Gulp. Jun Changshao swallowed and said hurriedly, "Aunt Wang, I have something to say." "Ah, Aunt Wang is going to kill someone." Chapter 44. Jun Changshao didn't stay idle while his disciple was doing tasks in Qingyang village for the whole day. He took the beginner disciple's spirit chi array manual and flipped to the first page. The first thing he saw was the words, "Tutorial for Dummies." How stupid is it? He continued to read and soon understood that the spirit energy array only needed to insert the 36 small flags in fixed positions. Let's give it a try. Jun Changshao walked out of the hall and came to an open space on the left side of the martial arts practice field. He inserted the 36 small flags in fixed positions one by one according to the layout diagram in the manual. Buzz, after the last flag was inserted into the ground, all the flags in the square trembled slightly. Blue light appeared at the base of the flag and connected with the adjacent flags. Whoosh! Whoosh! After a while, blue light appeared on all four sides and rose to a height of 5 meters like a water curtain until the top was sealed by the light. A small array was condensed just like that. It's really a dummy. Jun Changshao reached out and touched the boundary of the array. Half of his palm immediately sank into it, and then he stepped in. The space inside the array was very small, only 10 square meters, and the spirit energy was no different from the outside world. The manual said that the array could be activated by thoughts, but Jun Changshao didn't try it. After all, 1 contribution point would be deducted if it was activated. The spirit energy array is helpful to the disciples. I'll activate it after completing the sect's mission and let them cultivate. And this kind of consumable array can't be activated every day. Jun Changshao thought about it and decided to activate it once every 7 days and let the disciples cultivate for a few hours in turns. Sigh. I still lack contribution points. Otherwise, I'll activate it every day and let the disciples have twice the cultivation environment. Their cultivation will definitely improve quickly. Jun Changshao walked out. When he left, the blue array disappeared. The next day, Li Qingyang, Lu Qianshan, and the others continued to go to Qingyang village to complete their mission. Jun Changshao began to cultivate Yi Jin Jing, hoping to open the last meridian as soon as possible. He had browsed through the store last night, but he couldn't find anything suitable for breaking through his cultivation base, so he could only sit down and meditate. Needless to say, Jun Changshao could clearly see that the meridians in his body had expanded a lot during the time he was cultivating the muscle-bone strengthening scripture. His physical body was also much stronger than before. The current me should be much stronger than a few days ago, right? He muttered. The system said, the strength testing machine in the beginner's department store can be used to test the value of one's strength. I recommend the host to purchase it with an index of 5 stars. Tisk. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, "You're instigating me to spend contribution points again." The system said, the strength testing machine can be used by both the sect master and the disciples. It is an indispensable item for the sect. If it disappears due to a refresh, don't be too far away. Too far to reach? Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. You want to say that it's too late for regrets, right? Is it different? What the fuck? Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and muttered, increasing the realm is only one of the reasons, strength is the second reason. There is a need to buy a strength testing machine to test the disciples' growth every once in a while. Schwa! He skillfully pulled the system panel, clicked on the beginner's department store, and accurately found the strength testing machine. This item requires 10 contribution points. The introduction is also very simple. Only a line of words condense your spirit energy and blast it to accurately display your strength. I'll buy it. Ding! The host has spent 10 contribution points, received strength testing machine X1, has been transferred to the space ring. Sect contribution points, 24,100. Bang! Jun Changshao came to the outer room of the hall and summoned the strength testing machine. This thing looked no different from a standing sandbag. He tried to push it, but found that he couldn't move it at all. The system said, this thing can only be summoned by the host from the space ring, no one can move it at all. So it's like that. Jun Changshao clenched his fists, shook his head and said, let me first test how much strength I have. After a simple warm-up, he took a deep breath and clenched his right fist, 11 rays of light formed a circle around his wrist. Aha! Jun Changshao took a step forward, gathered spirit energy and poured it into his fist, only to hear a bang sound as he punched the strength testing machine. The airflow was like a ripple on the surface of the sea. However, the strength testing machine didn't move at all. The number 1800 gradually appeared on the top, followed by the unit of weight 1800 Jin. Jun Changshao said, "Not bad." The system said, "The average strength of a stage 11 meridian opening martial artist in the falling star continent is 1500 Jin, the host is 300 Jin higher." Only 300 Jin. Jun Changshao shook his head. If a martial artist saw his dissatisfied expression, they would definitely roar, "Big brother, it's 300 Jin higher than normal, what are you still not satisfied with?" The system analyzed, the host's body is weak and his aptitude is trash. To be able to exceed 300 Jin, it should be because of the body metamorphose scripture. Then let's continue to cultivate. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. Ding! Side mission activated. The side mission came. Jun Changshao, who was used to hearing this kind of notification, opened the system panel and saw the side mission teach a lesson to the AI clan's elder who came to provoke him 0-1, elite mission. AI clan's elder. He suddenly remembered the AI clan's third young master who was kicked away the day before. He touched his nose and laughed, "I beat up that playboy, the AI clan will definitely not let this go." Elite mission. Jun Changshao rubbed his hands and said, "This is a big fish." Elder Wei, who completed the elite mission in Qingyang City, gave him 20 contribution points, which made him eagerly wait for the AI clan's elder to come find trouble and earn more contribution points. Sect Master. A disciple staggered in from outside, looking flustered. "There's someone outside who claims to be an elder of the AI clan shouting. The day before yesterday, he came today, this speed is really fast. The rice delivery guy is here." Jun Changshao stood up and left. The disciple scratched his head and said with a confused face, "That's not right, these rice vats were just bought yesterday." Outside the red door of the Iron Bones sect, a middle-aged man wearing a long robe stood with his hands behind his back. His deep eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. His name was Ai Shanka, an elder of the Ai clan. From his bulging temples, one could guess that he was a martial disciple. "Aya." Jun Changshao walked out and cupped his hands, "You must be an elder of the AI clan. I didn't come out to greet you, please forgive me, forgive me." Ai Shanka glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and said indifferently, "You're the Iron Bones sect master, Jun Changshao?" "That's right." Jun Changshao said. Previously, Ai Shanka didn't recognize him as the sect master, but now that the AI clan's elder guessed it, he felt very comfortable. Ai Shanka said, "Sect Master Jun, my clan's direct descendant was bullied by your sect's disciple, please hand over the culprit." "This, don't worry, for the sake of the 100 Sect Alliance, I will only break the culprit's arm and leg, I won't take his life." Ai Shanka's attitude was very arrogant. Jun Changshao said awkwardly, "Elder Ai, to be honest, your clan's direct descendant caused trouble in front of my sect, but the one who taught him a lesson was not my disciple, but me." "What?" Ai Shanka said in shock, "You beat him?"